It's time for Liam McLeod with Sports Sound.
Every goal.
Brilliant goal! My goodness me!
Every game.
It is absolutely bedlam in the away end!
Every kick of the ball.
I cannot believe what I'm seeing here!
This is Sports Sound.
Sports Sound.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
Thanks, Graham. Good morning and welcome to Sports Sound with Liam McLeod on this wet and windy Sunday as the final game of the Premiership weekend takes centre stage with struggling Dundee welcoming the champions Celtic to Dens Park. Last night saw Hearts move 5 points clear at the top of the table, boosting their goal difference as well as they brushed Kilmarnock aside 3-0. Derek McInnes' side has collected 22 out of the 24 points available, scoring 19 goals in their 8 games as well. They are in good shape, it's fair to say. That coming after beleaguered Rangers dropped more points. Hibs thrashed Livingston. Aberdeen left it late to end their wait for a win in Paisley. And Falkirk came from behind to beat Motherwell. We will, of course, have a look back at yesterday's action a little later and focus on the big stories in the game. We will have plenty time to do all that as we are on air until 5 o'clock this afternoon. So stick with us for all of that. Stephen Craigan and Stephen Thompson will join me in the studio from 2. But before that, it's all about Dundee. Celtic, as the hosts look to end a wait of more than 24 years for a win over the champions. And indeed, it's 37 years since they last beat them at Dens. Is today the day for them? At Dens for us are Willie Miller and Scott Allen. The latter played for both clubs. We'll hear from them shortly. Before that, let's get the team news from Thomas Duncan, who'll be describing all the action for you. Thomas.
Yeah, morning Liam. And yeah, the omen's not good for Stephen Presley and Dundee, as you mentioned. They are a long time since they beat Celtic. Even longer time since they did it at Dens. 1988, their last home win over Celtic. It's a dreadful record. And it's a team that very much needs a victory, only separated by bottom side Livingston on goal difference, and any defeat today will send them to the foot of the table. But Stephen Presley, I spoke to him a few moments ago and he seemed bright and positive, says they've used the break well, and he's made a couple of changes to his side for this one. Finlay Robertson and Jan Danda dropping to the bench. He's got Paul Digby back in midfield. He's missed 6 weeks with a calf injury, so that's a boost. And Dre Wright also comes in, so they go with McCracken in the goals, Astley, Robertson, Graham, the back three. I think they'll shift back to, after going 4-4-2 or roughly at Pittodrie. Wright and Samuels on the flanks, Digby, Hamilton, Congreve in the middle, and Murray and Wesley up front. As for Celtic, this is the start of a really crucial period for them. Hearts, of course, laying down the gauntlet yesterday to go 5 points clear, and Celtic face, I think, 7 games it is in 21 days, a couple of European ones, a League Cup semi-final against Rangers, and of course that massive trip to Tynecastle next Sunday, so they really could do with taking care of business here this afternoon. Brendan Rodgers has made 3 changes from the late win over Motherwell. Sarachi and McCowan dropped to the bench. Dyson Maeda, of course, we knew would miss out with a slight hamstring strain. In come Tierney, Nygren and Yang, so it's Schmeichel in goals, Ralston, Carter-Vickers, Scales and Tierney the defence, McGregor, Nygren and Hatate, Yang, Tunekti and Iheanacho is the Celtic front line. Liam.
Thank you, Thomas. Kick-off is midday at Dens Park. That win over Motherwell is Celtic's only one in their last 4, and they've got a hectic schedule, as Thomas says. Sturm Graz to come on Thursday as they try and win a Europa League game for the first time this season. That before they go to Tynecastle next Sunday lunchtime. My goodness, what a fixture that one is shaping up to be. As for Dundee, a couple of defeats there. The one at Pittodrie was particularly painful, losing those 2 since beating Livingston. So difficult match for Stephen Presley, the most difficult one, of course, in Scotland, albeit Hearts would have a claim to that right now, but generally speaking it has been Celtic, and for Dundee in particular it's been Celtic for quite some time. As I said, Willie and Scott are with us, ready to do the co-commentary on the match this afternoon. Hello to you both.
Hi Liam. Hi Liam.
Good to have you with us. Willie, how do you see this one?
I think everybody in the stadium can only see one result at the end of the game, Liam, and that would be a victory for Celtic, even though they're not playing at their very best. You've just read out to the horror story of how these games have gone. You did say 37 years, did you?
88. Do you know who scored the goal for Dundee?
That's quite incredible.
Thomas will know. Thomas will know who that was, but he's not involved in this. Who scored the winning goal for Dundee against Celtic the last time they beat them at Dens?
Not a clue. Go on.
Tommy Coyne.
Tommy Coyne
Was the last match winner for Dundee against Celtic at home. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? You'd think
it is.
At some point, and there have been some draws in amongst all that. There was one 3-3 last season. They were seconds away from beating Celtic before an Engels penalty sealed a point. But it is incredible, isn't it, that a run like that can go on for so long?
It is, Liam, you know, but that's a fact, isn't it? And that's why, you know, Celtic will certainly be the firm favourites here this afternoon. You know, not hitting the form that you're expecting of them. I think we all know that. I think even Brendan Rodgers knows that as well. But at the same time, you would imagine that it would be strong enough to take care of a Dundee side. I watched at Pittodrie and they made no contact with any players. So player feed player just didn't happen. There was no energy. There was very little concern that Aberdeen had as far as Dundee in an attacking kind of a way. And, you know, Aberdeen really put them to the sword quite convincingly. So, you know, I think that one would have hurt. Simon Murray got taken off at that game, and I think he damaged some of the chairs in the dugout with his frustration. He was frustrated because they had very little service, to be perfectly honest, and you know, you could have taken anybody off that afternoon. It was just a horror show for Dundee, and you know, Stephen Presley's going to have to turn it round this afternoon. It's going to be a tough one for him. I'm sure he'll be speaking positively about it, but on the other hand, it's a mountain that they've got to climb if they're anywhere near the form they showed at Pittodrie.
Yeah, and any sort of defeat for Dundee today would drop them below Livingston to the foot of the Premiership table. Livy currently occupying 12th place after their heavy defeat at Hibs yesterday. Scott, as for Celtic, they've not, I don't think there's any stretch to say this, they have not hit full throttle, I don't think, at any point yet this season. Is this the kind of fixture where they could rack up the goals because Hearts are leaving them in their wake right now?
Yeah, well, I think, touching on Celtic, I think the way the Motherwell game went, obviously they get the goal back, tails it up, and obviously that last minute winner from Daisen Maeda, I think winning in that certain type of fashion can sometimes kick you on a little bit, and then followed by the international break where you're looking to get players refreshed. Obviously off the back of that, Maeda's injured, but in terms of the way the Motherwell game finished, and obviously you heard that day the reaction for the crowd, I think Celtic now know they would have seen some of the game last night. For me, Hearts are here to stay this season. There's no getting away from that. Some of the performances have been fantastic, and Celtic now need to put a real run together. But at the same time, I think Brendan Rodgers will be hopeful that performances can improve throughout the 90 minutes, because we probably haven't seen that from this Celtic side this season. In fact, we haven't seen that from this Celtic side, not the fluent team that we have seen over the years. So this might be the perfect game for them.
It's all relative at the end of the day. I mean, Celtic are unbeaten in the league, and if they win this, they're back to within 2 points, and if they beat Hearts next week, they're top of the table. They've got a League Cup semi-final to look forward to as well. They've at least got a point on the board from their first couple of Europa League matches. Got a chance to beat an Austrian team at home on Thursday to get their first victory, and things will be looking a whole lot better, Willie, for them.
Of course it would, Liam. You know, that's what football is about. It's about results. But, you know, if you're Celtic as well, it's about performances too. And all we can do is give an opinion on the performances that we've watched so far this season from Celtic, and all the controversy, the problems off the field, you know, the fans not being happy with the board. Brendan Rodgers, he's not said it directly, but he's indicated that he's not been happy with the board and the movement in the transfer market. So all is not well, you know, in East End of Glasgow. So performances are important. I think performances are important for Celtic. Results vital. You know, it's a huge ask, you know, getting into the kind of like games that they've got to take care of, and that one at Tynecastle, of course, will be just a huge one. I think all eyes will be on that game. We're not going to call it a title decider, or we could call it and get Derek McInnes really angry, couldn't we? But we're not going to call it that. But it goes a long way, and I think from a Hearts point of view, then they won't be able to hide it, that if they manage to beat Celtic, then it's a different
Oh, Willie,
scenario.
come on, you've got a long enough memory. You'll remember how Derek dealt with that a decade ago, less than that now, when he was Aberdeen manager. He kept batting that question away.
Yeah, of course he
all
will.
the way through till, well, the kind of latter part of that season.
Yes, but the eyebrows go down a little bit when he gets asked the question or somebody puts that to him. So I know Derek very well, and he's done a magnificent job. But that's a huge game, even this early in the season, I would think. But the issue then is how Hearts deal with it, how they deal with the pressure of people talking about them being serious title challengers. And with where Rangers are as well, you're not looking at them to get close. I know people will say that eventually they'll sort it out, and they probably will, but how long is it going to take? You know, and if Muscat's not in until November, then that's a huge gulf that has been left there, along with the semi-final to contend with. So, listen, it's really exciting. Scottish football is really exciting. I think the emergence of Hearts have been brilliant for the game. But they will be tested. Celtic will be tested that game at Tynecastle, and then if they come out victors, if Hearts come out victors, then it's a whole new ball game for them to deal with.
Celtic have got Dundee to get past first, but that league table, Hearts 22 points, Celtic on 17 with this game in hand to come. Then there's a fairly sizable gap between the top two and third, where there's no gap really when you look between third and even 12th down there. Hibs currently sitting third on 11 points, and Livingston are bottom, just 5 points behind them. It's remarkable how few wins teams have been able to cobble together, albeit we're still in the first quarter of this league season. Let's hear from the two managers then. We'll start with Dundee, who are the hosts, and Stephen Presley has been chatting with Thomas Duncan ahead of this one.
Stephen, obviously a disappointing result before the international break. You've had time to digest that, analyse it, and how have you used the time to try and improve things?
To learn from it. You know, the one thing that prior to the Aberdeen game was that we were very competitive in all games. You know, the games had all come down to very fine margins, whether winning, losing or drawing the games. There was real fine margins in it. But we probably, you know, took a step too far against Aberdeen. We went there, you know, more aggressive, a little bit more open than we had been in the past, and really tried to take the game to Aberdeen, and maybe we just weren't ready for that at this stage in our development. So there was real lessons. As I said, post-game I took ownership of that, and we have to learn from it, and we've worked very hard over the last 2 weeks to improve on certain things and understand, you know, how we must play moving forward, not just the Celtic game but longer term. So it's been a very productive couple of weeks.
It still looks like quite an attacking team you have picked here this afternoon, so I guess Celtic, much documented and maybe not at their best, but it's still a massive challenge. So how do you see the best way to going about getting a result?
Well, the one thing is that we have to defend properly. You know, there's no doubt about that. We did that to good effect. You know, in our last game against Rangers at Ibrox, we were very well structured. But not only that, the mentality of the players was very strong that day. So we have to be that again, not just good tactically, but good mentally. I think if we do that and we're aggressive in our play, then I believe we can cause them problems.
And Dundee haven't beaten Celtic here at Dens Park since 1988, so I don't know if many fans come here ever expecting to beat Celtic, but what can you give them this afternoon that, regardless of the result, in terms of performance, in terms of effort, that, you know, despite the start of the season, they'll maybe go away with a bit more of a spring in their step?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think performance is very important for us today. You know, I think if we get the right performance, then the result will take care of itself. We hope we can give them that. You know, it's the statistics tell you, as you've just mentioned, how difficult a game this has been for this club over the years. But my job, along with the players, is to try and change that statistic.
Thanks, Stephen. Good luck.
Thank you.
Huge challenge for Stephen Presley and for Dundee. And when you look at their fixtures to come after this one, and this is obviously the most challenging, going by recent history in the top flight, they have trips to Falkirk and Hearts before they host Rangers, and then it's Hibs away. Just between now and kind of just after the next international break. So it's a It's a difficult period. Stephen Presley's not been in the job long, Scott. I don't think, well, I know he wasn't the universal choice amongst the Dundee supporters for the job, and many of them made their feelings clear. It's very difficult for him right now, isn't it, to try and get the ship turned, get up the table, particularly when you consider this is a Dundee team that lost several key players over the course of the last 12 months. Think of Luke McCowan, who's on the Celtic bench today, Josh Mulligan and Lyle Cameron, amongst others who left in the summer. It's a lot of new players in there as well, trying to get the engine running.
Yeah, Silla, Tiffany, you could go on in terms of the players. Listen, it's a really tough job for Stephen Presley. I think I had played against his Carlisle team, must have been about 6 years ago, and they played a really good brand of football. I think he's came in and initially wanted to play that way. Premier Sports Cup absolutely wasn't kind to him, and I think he's realised with some of the players that he does have in the building, he won't maybe be able to play that sort of brand. So as we've seen from the get-go at the start of the season, it looks like a back three, but when the game kicks off, they've been getting forced into a back five week after week and had for long spells having to defend. I think you touch on Simon Murray, that frustration that he showed up against Aberdeen. That's of a striker who just isn't getting chances created for him. So if you look at both boxes, they just haven't quite been of the level that Stephen Presley and the Dundee fans would expect. But as you say, there has been a lot of change. I actually think against Aberdeen, they maybe thought that they were vulnerable and they could maybe be a bit more adventurous at the start of the game. But the way Stuart Armstrong, Carlson, they had a real impact in the game and ultimately Dundee get punished on the day. So I would expect the same today. Celtic look to control the game and Dundee obviously forced back into that back five. But if they're going to do it, this could be, if Dundee can defend well, you look at that fixtures that's coming up for them. Falkirk away next week, absolutely massive. If they were to get a point today, and amongst some of the games that you have touched on there, Liam, it would be a good point, but it would take a real defensive performance from every single player. They would have to get close to Celtic in the middle of the park, put real pressure, engage all the time, and then when they have the ball, hope to keep it at times, because when you are in a run, you're at the bottom of the league, you do feel the pressure. There's no getting away from that. They haven't been playing a particularly lovely brand of football, but at this stage it's about getting points on the board. So it'll be really interesting to see how the game pans out. We do expect Celtic to have control, but Stephen Presley is under pressure. There's no getting away from that.
Former Celtic defender, of course, Stephen Presley, when he made that move from Hearts. Willie, a couple of things he said there jumped out to me. Firstly, he said they were maybe a bit too open against Aberdeen. He also said they have to defend properly. Now, defending properly is all very well and good saying that. It's 2 clean sheets in their 12 games this season. One of those was against Montrose, the other was at Rugby Park. They've conceded at least once in all their other games this season. How on earth do they go about getting a result today?
Yeah, and it was the same problem last. Well, it was a horrendous problem last season with the amount of goals that they gave up. I was surprised to hear Stephen saying that they were aggressive against Aberdeen. I felt that was exactly the opposite. They will have to be aggressive. They'll have to go and get close to the Celtic players. You can't allow Celtic players to run off Dens Park here, you know. And he's got to come up with a formula, and I think it's a defensive formula. It's a formula to stop Celtic, but also have a threat going forward. Now that's a really difficult combination to put together. But to learn from last week, but I didn't think they were too open. I just think there was a lack of connection with the opposite players. There was virtually no physicality. There was no tackles going in. They looked disjointed. They looked disorganised. Simon Murray had nothing to do. So to say that Dundee went to Pittodrie to be open and put Aberdeen under pressure, they did very little of that. I just think it was a horror show. He's got over it. It hasn't been as bad as that, prior to the Aberdeen game. So he can look back in some of these games and reflect on it. To the draw at Ibrox being one of them. They're going to have to be compact. They're going to have to be organised. They're going to have to be competitive. They're going to have to be a little bit physical, and they're going to have to ride their luck a bit, I would suggest. Because if Celtic do, and they're going to hit form at some point, Celtic, they've got too many good players throughout their squad not to. If Celtic do hit top form, then I can only see one result. And if Stephen Presley can have his team organised, then it might take a wee bit of time for that result to happen. But if they're disjointed and unorganised at the beginning of this game, then it could be another serious blow for him. We all know that he's under pressure. We all know that the Dundee fans weren't comfortable with the appointment, and the only way to turn that round is by getting results. And if we could get a result here today, that would certainly give the fans hope. Fans need hope. Listen, I've been through it this season with Aberdeen, and they've got hope, and they can see it turning round, and that's when all the pressure comes off the manager, the board, the players. So it's about performance, absolutely. I think if he gets a good performance without the result, he can talk positive about the game, but if he can get a good performance and a result, then of course that turns things round for him.
All the clubs, remember, in the Premiership are showing their support for show racism. The red card this weekend, it's an annual fixture, of course. And Celtic, unbeaten in the Premiership. They have dropped points in a couple of matches. Even if they win this one, they will still be behind Hearts. But it's crucial for them going to that game at Tynecastle next week that they do the business against Dundee. And Brendan Rodgers, their manager, has been chatting with Thomas.
Brendan, I guess it's always a bit of a tough time for managers coming back from the international break, getting players back from all over the world. How have preparations been?
Yeah, well, exactly that. It's always that challenge, of course. Players being away and whatnot, so you don't really get everyone back till Friday. But no, we're looking forward to the game. I've always enjoyed coming here. The pitch is always really nice, and hopefully we can put in a performance to match. Yeah, so the start of a kind of congested set of fixtures for the club, big fixtures. How important is it to get obviously a win, but a really impressive performance here to set the tone for this next little spell? Yeah, well, 7 games in 21 days is, of course, it's a tough spell, but my message to the players is let's take on the challenge of that. We want to play well, we want to win games, and that's what we'll look to do starting from today. How much confidence do you think the players will take in the fact they scored 3 goals at home, a late winner, and the kind of energy that was in the stadium at the end of the Motherwell game felt a bit different to maybe so far this season? How much confidence do you think that's given the group? Yeah, it has been a challenging start to the season for many reasons. However, that's in the past really, and what we can only affect is going forward. So what we can affect is on the pitch, and we aim to do that. We've domestically been okay. We want to win games, of course, and we want to win it in a way that we have done in the past. So yeah, but it's important to win, and that's the name of our game. So, but for us, we want to perform well, and hopefully we can continue with that. Obviously, no Daisen Maeda. Yang comes in. What are you looking for from him this afternoon? Well, Yang gives us that width. The right side has been a wee bit of a challenge for us, but he's played well in games before, and against Dundee at home, I remember a game he was outstanding in when we won well. So he's training very well. So he's that player naturally that can come in and give us the energy and give us hopefully that quality that we need. And just finally, Alistair Johnson not in the squad. Is it just a case of easing him back in? Yeah, well, we assessed him. He just still felt a little bit tight coming back into training over the last few days. So, but hopefully it won't be too far away for Thursday. Thanks, Brendan. Good luck. Thank you.
I think Maeda did travel with the Japan team during the international break, but he had picked up that injury in the Motherwell match a couple of weeks ago. So he's out altogether, as you were hearing from Brendan Rodgers there. Alistair Johnston will be back pretty soon, Scott, and whilst Tony Ralston and I think Colby Donovan in particular have impressed at right back in Johnston's absence, I don't think there's any doubt how important Johnston is to this Celtic team, both defensively and actually offensively as well.
Yeah, I think he's been a massive loss for Celtic in terms of that dynamism that he does show on that right hand side. I think he was a big part of Celtic over the last few years. Some of the relationships he struck up with his winger, looks to get forward, he's got that quality in the final third. And most importantly, he competes, he gets close to people, wants to make it hard for his opponent. So he'll be a big plus in terms of Brendan Rodgers getting him back into his team. Whether that's sooner than we expect, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, he doesn't make the squad today. But Tony Ralston and Colby Donovan in his absence. Colby Donovan, we touch on him just as obviously a player coming through the academy and came in and had a really good impact in the team. And that sometimes is a benefit when someone gets injured, a player in the wings ready to take his opportunity. Tony Ralston, we've seen him do it time and time again. Never easy when you're a backup fullback. Alistair Johnston obviously number one in your you're having to stay fit through training, you're not really getting the minutes you need, and then you're just plucked back in and expected to perform straight away. So I think Brendan Rodgers knows what he's getting from Tony Ralston, so but there's no question. I think Celtic fans will be delighted to see him coming back into the fold.
The players are in the tunnel, so kick off just a few minutes away. Willie, Brendan Rodgers saying there he's always enjoyed his trips to Dens Park. No wonder he's unbeaten in 8 visits.
That's okay, isn't it?
He's won 7 of them.
If you've got a good run like that, then of course you enjoy coming to Dens. And he did touch on the surface as well. It's looking absolutely immaculate, Liam. You know, the technology now that they use on football pitches here in Scotland is absolutely top quality. So there's no excuse for Celtic. Celtic will
fake
enjoy
sunlight,
playing.
Willie. Fake sunlight, that's what they use.
What is it they use? Sorry.
They use like
talk to me, young man. Talk to the old guy here.
It gives the pitch the light, doesn't it? They put it over when they obviously at night time. But I think they did change groundsman as well. So you got to handle what a job he's done. As you says, the pitch looks incredible condition.
Could be doing with updating the PA system right enough.
But make it a little bit louder.
Sounds a bit tinny, but then they're hoping to move stadium at some point in the next few years. So.
Yeah. I was speaking to Gordon Strachan. They are hoping to do that. They're struggling through the planning process just now, but they're hopeful that they will be moving to a new stadium.
A club closer to Willie, of course, has been trying to do that for even longer. So
tell me about that one.
Well,
how long have you got, Liam?
Well, I know. What are we, 25 years now since the...
Easily.
Anyway, look, we will have a look back at all yesterday's action as well, which will include Aberdeen's late win at St Mirren. We'll have a look at the Rangers managerial situation. As I said, we've got Stephen Thompson and Stephen Cragen joining us in the studio from about 2 o'clock after full time at Dens Park. So we've got plenty to get into and plenty of time to do so as well. So let's sit back and listen to the action from Dens. It is Dundee against Celtic in the final Premiership match of the weekend in the teeming rain in the city of Discovery. Willie Miller, Scott Allen, and trying to peer through those pillars at the back of the main stand at Dens Park to bring you the action. It's Thomas Duncan.
Thank you, Liam. And it is a Dreich Dundee day, which rather sums up the mood around Dundee Football Club right now. Ever since Tony Docherty's shock departure and Stephen Presley coming in, not exactly Mr. Popular from the off, rightly or wrongly, and the start to the season hasn't given much cause for hope so far. The drubbing at Pittodrie piled the pressure on the Dundee manager, and they're up against the champions, a side they have a horrible record against, as we've discussed. And it couldn't get much worse for them in terms of trying to bounce back after the international break, but bounce back they must. Likewise, Celtic with their own quest here to close the gap on Hearts ahead of a really busy spell for them, an important spell. And Brendan Rodgers has been consistent, said it after the Motherwell win. They've hit nowhere near the heights he would expect from them this season. And I guess, given what they've produced season after season after season in the Scottish Premiership, we all just expect them to click at some point, but it doesn't just happen, and Dundee want to make sure it's not today as the players fan out on the pitch after displaying the show racism, the red cards. Cards that they flash up to send the message there's no room for racism in life and across Scottish football, of course. Dundee looking to end that 37-year wait for a home win over Celtic, and they almost did it last season. Got to stoppage time before Arne Engels' penalty gave Celtic a 3-3 draw. But that was a Dundee side that, yes, conceded a lot of goals, but they scored a lot as well, and that has been a problem for Stephen Presley's side this season. They've just got the 6 in 8 league games, and they've recorded the fewest shots, just 19 on target in their games so far. Simon Murray, as the guys have discussed, cutting a frustrated figure at Pittodrie. He's in the centre circle at the moment as Celtic perform their huddle, and their fans applaud that. There was a few, or are a few, of the usual banners appearing at all Celtic games now, of the boards with the red circles with a line through them, with Michael Nicholson, Dermot Desmond and Peter Lawwell as their protests go on. And there's a tennis ball launched on the Dens Park turf, as we've seen that before here at Dens from the Celtic fans. Players are ready now, lining up. It's going to be Dundee to kick off. They're going to shoot from right to left in their dark blue and white kit. Celtic in the traditional green and white hoops, white shorts, white socks, and the referee is Matthew McDermott. He's just checking everything's okay as the banner calling for Michael Nicholson to resign is flashed up by the away end, the Celtic chief executive. But it is Dundee to kick us off. Congreve goes back to his goalkeeper John McCracken, and the tennis balls, now the rest of them, come on to the Dens Park pitch. As I said, we've seen this form of protest before from the Celtic fans in that away end at Dens, and it's going to halt the game early on. And you know, they're looking to protest against the club's management, what they view as the toil of the transfer window, which led ultimately to Champions League elimination. But this is frustrating for the players. They are now, instead of getting stuck into the action, having revved themselves up, or having to stoop and throw the balls off the pitch. Willie?
Well, it doesn't help the team, you know. OK, they've got every right to protest, but there's ways of protesting against what's going on at Celtic Park and their displeasure with the board. But this isn't one of the ways that you should be protesting. And you've got to remember that there's people here to enjoy the afternoon as well. It's not all about Celtic, you know. That there is Dundee fans here that just want to enjoy a game of football. I'm sure the majority of the Celtic fans want to enjoy the game of football. I just think, you know, keep the protest. Just, you know, don't protest in this manner. It's actually quite embarrassing watching the players having to pick these balls up and throw them off the pitch. So that would be my plea to the Celtic fans: protest in the proper fashion.
Yeah, well, they've got the banners, they've got the songs, they've got those means they're urging. I think after the fan collective met with the boards and were not satisfied with the outcome of that, met with Michael Nicholson, there's now a kind of call to boycott merchandise and all the rest of it. So they are protesting in other ways, but this is, I mean, we're now being treated to the spectre of all the Celtic players in their own box, stooped over, reaching for tennis balls and throwing them off the pitch when we should be 2 minutes into the game. And it's hugely frustrating for the rest of the crowd here and the players and management. Of course, Brendan Rodgers standing in the dugout, arms folded. It's just disruptive to the team on the pitch. And you can understand the other protests aimed directly at the board, looking to hurt the coffers and singing the songs where appropriate, but this is hurting the players, Scott Allen.
Yeah, you're obviously do your warm-up, you then have your wee time in beside before you go out to play, and you're ready to go. Game kicks off and then the tennis ball comes on. Hugely frustrating, especially if you're a player. I think the groundsman will be frustrated as well after this talk about how good that pitch was, and then the tennis balls come on. And you're now seeing, as you've seen, Celtic players for about 2.5 minutes now leaning over, having to chuck the balls off the park. So listen, there's all sorts of ways to protest. For me, certainly from a player's perspective, that's not the way.
I think as far as Scottish football goes as well, it's not a great optics for Scottish football, is it? You know, you're trying to lift the profile of the game here in Scotland, and you know the clubs are doing their best to do that, but you know, when you've got scenes like this, it just doesn't help at all.
Well, mercifully, there's been good work by the players and staff of Dundee and Celtic and the stewards here at Dens Park to clear the pitches. Another one just gets launched on there into front of Kasper Schmeichel, and it's just a bit of a laughable scene at the moment, and they continue to throw them on, and now the Dundee fans responding with boos and frustration. It's just, I mean, we should be 3.5 minutes into the game here, and we have had 2 balls kicked, the kick-off and a launch up the park. And you know, you feel for the stewards as well, to be honest, because there's only so much they can do down there. As we hope the action, I should say, is not too far away. Matthew McDermott with the ball in his hands and lays it to the back, and Dundee do play it forward, and we do have play here eventually with 4 minutes meant to have been on the clock. Rio Tati forward, and it's up in the air from Luke Graham in the Celtic half. Carter Vickers on the edge of his own box, heads it. Tati with a swipe, and it breaks for Tunekti, going back towards his own goal, and he's under pressure, but brilliant feet, and he draws the foul from Dre Wright, and buys Celtic a valuable free kick.
Well, it's a good start, isn't it, from Dundee? You know, after all the issues with the tennis balls, of course, they've managed to kind of focus on trying to put Celtic under a little bit of pressure. It hasn't been silky football, it's been pretty simple and straightforward. Just get the ball into the box and get the two centre-backs in particular tested, but they did extremely well, and Hatate obviously with that little turn, being brought down as well, gives Celtic the opportunity of possession.
And Ralston plays it down the right touchline. Yang is into the side, and Brendan Rodgers did say in his pre-match interview the right side is a problem because they're stacked with left wingers, and didn't manage to replace Nicholas Kuhn on the right hand side in the window. Yang, a player that is capable of good things but doesn't show it on a consistent basis, in for an opportunity this afternoon at Dens. Liam Scales takes it over halfway. Slick surface as the rain comes down at Dens Park, and the run forward, but it's well covered by Ryan Astley, who just shepherds that out for a Dundee goal kick. Dundee, well, Livingston dropped to the bottom of the Premiership yesterday after that humbling at Easter Roads, with Aberdeen moving off the bottom after their consecutive victories. It means Dundee will be bottom if they lose here today, and although it is very early in the season, it doesn't do much for confidence or mood around the football club. And well, Stephen Presley well knows as well, they have shown themselves to be a rather ruthless club in terms of the dugout. And Celtic clear it out of defence. Nygren wins the challenge, goes down looking for the free kick, told to get to his feet, and here comes Amari Samuels darting towards the Celtic box, crowded out. Hatate can't gather the loose ball, and Dre Wright plays it to Luke Graham in the Celtic half. Luke Graham unchallenged at the moment, and then Nygren goes to meet him. Another one of the three changes made by Brendan Rodgers from the Motherwell game. Benjamin Nygren had a big impact off the bench, scored the goal, which was a gift, but from Callum Ward, the Motherwell goalkeeper, but he was also influential in that comeback, which was much needed, given Hearts had gone 5 points clear as they did again yesterday. That emphatic win over Kilmarnock. Callum McGregor out to Tierney to Hatate, out to Tunekti on the left touchline, into McGregor back to Tierney to Liam Scales, to Carter Vickers to Ralston, who saw yet more action in a Scotland jersey during the international break. It's a bit of a wild pass, but it deflects off Digby's thigh and breaks for Tunekti halfway up the Dundee half, comes infield, and it goes to Callum McGregor, who rides the challenge of Congreve and then gives it to Tierney on the far touchline. Loose touch from Hatate, and then Murray tries to return the pass to Wesley, but Celtic win it back, and then it's cleared eventually downfield by Dundee to Schmeichel. Scales played 3.5 minutes, goalless here at Dens Park, the final fixture the Premiership weekend. Nygren slides the ball for Yang, right hand side of the box. Good challenge from Luke Graham, and he has won the goal kick as well. Excellent defending, Willie.
Yeah, it was. Looking at the shape, it's definitely the five at the back. You can see the five just spread right across the back. Two sitters in the midfield. Then, Stephen Presley's got the three that are trying to up top. It's Congreve, Wesley, and Murray, and Congreve and Wesley trying to support Murray. So, listen, there's a lot of energy out there. I think the shape's looking good. They're trying to play the high press as well. They're putting Celtic under pressure. Celtic haven't really, I don't think, got into their stride as yet.
Flicked on by Wesley for Murray, who's bustling about on the edge of the box, forcing Celtic to try and clear it. They've not managed to do it too effectively. Hatate gets a touch for Nygren, but Dundee have won it back again. Dre Wright to Astley. Now Dre Wright, former St Johnstone man, back to Astley, and then out to Congreve, and he tries to go down the outside of Tierney, but he's won a throw-in.
Listen, I'm looking at Dundee there, and they've got no intention of building out from the back, which is fair enough. You can see what they're trying to do. They've been very direct and then trying to get around these second balls, and it has caused problems. There you go, there's another one.
Big switch out to Samuels. What a touch that is from the wing back, and then he digs out the cross as well. Murray's on the penalty spot, it floats ahead of him, and Tierney has to clear out on the far side. This is a different Dundee side already to the one we saw at Pittodrie.
That's a good movement, isn't it? What a touch it was as well from Samuels, taking that one out there, and a really delicate flip into the box as well. Unfortunately, not enough blue jerseys in there.
Dundee advantage here. And Dre Wright drills it across. Simon Murray lets it run. Wesley blocked. Will it fall back for him? It won't. And Liam Scales lets it run out for a goal kick. That's a golden opportunity for Dundee.
Fantastic ball from Dre Wright. I think Simon Murray overs it and it just falls and he can't quite get the contact. But Celtic just haven't started here.
I just wonder if Simon Murray, Scott, could have just smashed that.
I don't know. Well, if he does that and it comes across and he puts it in the back of the net, he may be just not in the same wavelength. Obviously snatches at it.
Yeah, I'm struggling to understand why he needs to try to put so much power in it, because the pace is on the ball. He just has to open his boot up and just make contact with it, and it's in the back of the net. It's a huge opportunity. No, I think Simon Murray did the right thing by... I was surprised at it right enough, because normally he's hungry and he wants to have, take any opportunity that comes his way, but it was well set up. Big chance for Dundee, and they've started really well. Celtic are struggling to cope with the energy and the press.
So their distances are really important here, because they aren't playing out. When it does land at John McCracken, everybody's squeezing up, it goes long, ball drops down. They're all in good distances to get close to Celtic players, and that's allowed them to get back on the ball. Celtic, in terms of on the ball, look a little bit sluggish, quite loose on it. We've seen that a few times already.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been a bit of the story of their season, Celtic, so far, just nowhere near the same intensity that they played with last season. McCracken with a heavy touch as Iheanacho ran in to close him down, but he got it away. And now it's Graham up the line. Wesley takes it off the chest. It looked like it was the arm, and indeed it was. Matthew McDermott blows the whistle. Free kick to Celtic. Get on with it. Negrin out to Tierney, in for Sarachi, who has actually started the last 3 Celtic games before this one, Uruguayan, but Tierney in from the start here as he works it across to Ralston, and McGregor in the centre circle in the Dundee half, out to Tierney, who's got a bit of space here in field, then Tunekti up against Dre Wright and Congreve. Tunekti gets away from both but has to go backwards. Low cross from Tierney, and it's a really unconvincing sclaff behind by Ryan Astley, but it's a corner.
Yeah, it's signs that Celtic are beginning to get a little bit of control of the ball, but you just feel that you're coming up here to Dundee. You want to try and have control of the ball right from the start. Yeah, the protest puts you off your stride, but it's not been a great start from the hoops, that's for sure.
Short corner back to Tierney, and it goes to the back post, and Digby has to stoop and head it out behind, because Ralston was lurking there, forcing him to make a decision.
You look at Dundee's shape out of possession there in that back five, as Willie was saying. Celtic just have to be patient with the ball side to side, hope one of the Dundee players does overcommit, and then you can get your combinations and get you in behind that stubborn defence.
Hatate from distance, it's a good few yards wide of the right hand post. Goalless it remains at Dens Park. 13 minutes on my clock, but of course I didn't get going for 4 minutes after a tennis ball protest from the Celtic fans in the away end. If you're just joining us live on Sportsline on BBC Radio Scotland, the game was held up for the first nearly 4 minutes due to that, as the players had to clear the park. But when the game has started, it's Dundee who have had the best chance through Wesley, couldn't take it. Headed forwards, McGregor's underneath it, up towards Iheanacho. Astley sends it back, McGregor takes it down well, facing his own goal, slides it to Carter Vickers, then Ralston to Carter Vickers, who is asking for movement, gets it from McGregor, and then McGregor to Negrin, crosses halfway and carries it forward up the line. Has to check back onto the left foot, gives it to McGregor. Now across to Liam Scales, who steps into the game. Tunekti's pulled wide. Liam Scales hesitates and then goes infield with a pass. He just can't find it, but it breaks for Hatate. Jinking on the edge of the D. Then Ralston sends the cross towards the corner of the 6-yard box, flicked away by Dundee. And that's Tunekti who has it. And he tries to dummy and go the other way. Tierney keeps it in, gives it to the Tunisian. And then it's McGregor in the centre of the pitch. Ralston to Iheanacho, well outside the penalty area. Celtic forced back. McGregor to Hatate, every Celtic player in the Dundee half bar, the goalkeeper. And Iheanacho goes from distance. And it's clipped the outside of the post. Well, John McCracken didn't look like he was ready for that shot to go as close to the target as it did, and it just clips the outside of the post and behind.
Yeah, it's a good effort from Iheanacho. think if you're one of the Dundee centre-backs there, you have to engage when he does step in. And sometimes that's what it takes, especially against that kind of setup that Dundee do have out of possession, but it's a shot from distance and just kind of swing things. But Dundee, in terms of shape, been really positive so far. As you say, again, the whole team up, looking to make it really hard for Celtic in the individual battles.
Yeah, you see Stephen Presley out there as well, encouraging his back five to push up. I think that's really important, because if you play that back five and you're just sitting back the park, then you can get hemmed in.
Here's Dundee on the edge of the Celtic box. Congreve goes on the outside, drills it to Murray, who misses it, stuck out a toe. Samuels picks it up at the back post, sends it back in. McGregor heads it away, and then the shot from distance from Graham is into the stands. And another little chance for Dundee there. Simon Murray, you feel like last season he might get more on that.
Yeah, listen, I don't think he quite expects it to get across. It's a fantastic ball again. I think it bypasses two Dundee players. They just can't manage to get the shot away. But again, positive. All comes from just being really direct.
Yeah, but again, you just feel it's that composure that, I think that they're fired up. The Dundee players are fired up. They're running about the park. They're putting Celtic under pressure. But at times in the box, you've got to calm down.
Yeah, Nacho from distance again after good feet, but this time doesn't go near the target.
It did come to him very quickly as well, didn't it? That one wasn't in the same class as the first one. I think the first one was much, that Wesley got. I thought that was much more easily just to show that composure and just make contact.
It's just signs from Dundee we haven't really seen this season. As I mentioned, they've had they're just bottom of just about every attacking metric you can imagine in the league, although they have scored more than Aberdeen in fairness, but it's which is the crucial one. But
it's all these bits here, all these bits, it goes up to Simon Murray. Scales went ahead on Dundee on the next ball, and then they're building their attacks higher up instead of building out. The distances aren't close together.
Strike from distance block. Congreve bounces for him, gets the strike away, and Schmeichel, I think, had to make the block at the near post. Really tight angle, but Dundee have a corner.
I think that's just obviously they've had a little bit of time to work on how they're going to go about this game. And Scott's right, it's a long ball game. I don't have any issue with that at all. If that's how you feel you can break down Celtic, that's what you do, that's how you play it, and I'll tell you what, it's working.
Yeah. Corner to Dundee from the far side, in swinger, and it's a free header, it's in the bottom corner. Oh my word, Clark Robertson has given Dundee the lead at Dens Park against the champions. They've not beaten them since 2001. It's early days, but they've deservedly hit the front. It is Dundee 1, Celtic 0.
It's quite incredible, isn't it, the marking of Celtic. They've been lacklustre throughout this opening spell, and that's just an example of being focused, being tight on your man, making sure the simple things, just pick men up, particularly the tall players, for goodness sake. Well, there's a possible offside check that they've got to go through just now. Didn't see it myself, but if it stands, then what a start it's been for Dundee. Magnificent start. They thoroughly deserve it, by the way.
Yeah, you really deserved. As we spoke about, that's how they're getting their joy, and it has been direct. It comes from a set piece. Set pieces now in modern football, a big part of the game. But ultimately, from a Celtic point of view, that is horrendous defending in terms of defending crosses. It's Clark Robertson in the box free. It's a fantastic header.
Yeah, he's a centre-back that comes up. I mean, surely to goodness you pick up the centre-back. I don't know what you're thinking about if you're not picking up Clark Robertson and giving him the freedom in the penalty box. And it's a simple header, isn't it, into the back of the net.
Yeah, if you look at this game so far from a Celtic point of view, it's nothing to do with tactically. It's all about your individual duels, getting close to people. The same thing we were expecting Dundee to do, which they have done. Celtic just haven't been competing.
And the roar you heard was the goal being confirmed. There's obviously a check for offside. I agree with Willie, I didn't really see it myself unless there was any obstruction on Schmeichel, but the officials are happy with it, and Dundee with a sensational lead over Celtic here in the first half, and as the guys have said, it's thoroughly deserved on the balance of play so far.
The oldest quote in the book is, you have to earn the right to play. Right now Celtic aren't earning the right because they aren't matching the intensity and the physicality from Dundee at this moment in time, especially on the second ball.
Carter Vickers over to Alston back to Carter Vickers and Scales. Can Celtic inject some tempo into their game as Scales goes out to Tenecti? Underlapping run from Tierney, but it goes back to Scales. Scales infield to McGregor. McGregor to Scales. Scales challenged but manages to keep hold of it. Then it's Hatate. Hatate dinks the pass over the top to Tierney. He's free in the box. It's Kieran Tierney, and he's blasted it wide of the far post. And that is a brilliant opportunity for Celtic to find a quick leveller. Oh, they've not been able to take it.
That's Hatate's best, isn't it? Little intricate dink over the defence. Kieran Tierney bombing on. He just can't quite convert it. A sign of life from Celtic.
It is a tight angle, isn't it? But he hits it so sweetly as well.
Do you go outside of the boot, Willie? Outside of the left foot to curve it back in?
I would just hope that I would make contact with my left foot, to be perfectly honest, in that situation. But you're right, yeah, if he hits it with a little bit of curl, a little bit of swerve, then, because it's not far away from, you know, finding the far back of the net, is it? I mean, and it's a great move, it's a lovely move. Hatate's little dink over the top as well. Kieran Tierney does just about everything right apart from scoring.
That's the Kieran Tierney of old, though, the one that we've not really seen this season so far, is getting those runs into the box down the outside and being a goal threat, and he just couldn't quite find the finish. As Ralston comes in field from right back, gives it to McGregor, left foot to Tierney, back to McGregor. And Nygren. McGregor. Tierney's made another forward run on, almost into a centre forward position, and it's out to Tenecti. Tenecti shifts it onto the right foot, immediately closed down, and his pass is picked off. And now Dundee rampaging forward. Hamilton read it all the way, and he's still going into Celtic territory, and he lays it to the right hand side. Murray's in the box. It's Congreve, flashes it across, and Schmeichel to palm it away. Dundee playing with a confidence that belies their form this season. 1-0 to the good, looking to make it 2, and Samuels is taking on Nygren, and the Swede recovers with a good challenge, which earns Celtic the goal kick at a crucial moment.
It all comes from that pressure, doesn't it, from Hamilton in the middle of the park. He sees the pass coming, he intercepts and away, and he timed it perfectly. He kept driving with the ball, opened that pass out to the wing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when you get opportunities like that, you've got to take them. You know, when you've made that interception, Celtic have got all their men forward. It was actually 3v2 at one stage there, so Celtic leaving themselves well stretched. A decent save from Schmeichel in goal.
Tenecti gets the ball in behind, and there's a chance for Yang, and he's put it over the top. Oh, what a chance for Hyun-Jin Yang, as Tenecti did brilliantly to keep that in on the byline, laid it back. Yang was on the penalty spot, but the finish was woeful, quite frankly.
I think that's the ball for Celtic, and beside that right centre back, and Dre Wright sleeping there. Tenecti gets in. He's made that run a few times and hasn't had the service. That looks like the way that Celtic could get back into this game down that side.
It's not an easy one for him to take, though, is it, Yang? It's bouncing up, you know, maybe just above hip height as well. He's got to try and manoeuvre his body and get over the top of it. Doesn't manage to do it, puts it over the bar.
And Carter Vickers wins a header, sent back by Digby, who Stephen Presley has said he's missed in the side in the last 6 weeks with a calf issue. The signing from Cambridge in the summer, played a lot of League 1, League 2 football in England. In the middle of midfield for Dundee this afternoon, as Nygren tried to play Yang in down the right hand side, but it's meat and drink for the Dundee defence. Now McGregor though, and then the ball to Nygren, breaks for Hatate, taking it to the byline across the 6-yard box. Dundee turn it out for a throw in on this near side, and Celtic just starting to up the tempo. They trail 1-0. Clark Robertson's header, the difference between the sides. Ralston on the right hand side gives it to McGregor. McGregor into Hatate, then Carter Vickers. Scales in a central midfield position, out to Tierney on the far side. Tierney down towards the corner of the box with his pass, but it's straight to Digby, and Dre Wright turns away from Kieran Tierney, and he's managed to earn Dundee a throw in line with the edge of their own box.
It's a good line from Dundee though. Anytime it goes to one of the Celtic wide players, they're on the 18-yard box. Distance is really good. And then when it does, if they do manage to get behind them, they're looking to get back into that 6-yard box, and you've got the 3 big guys across there looking to head and clear everything.
You just think, why do Celtic not start at this pace? You know, they know that they're not playing at their very best, but they know that they're capable of, you know, certainly taking Dundee on the evidence of form, but they start so slowly. Again, I don't think the protest helped, but you can't put it down to that. When they up the tempo, when they play with their two centre backs, 40 yards from the Dundee goal as well. Okay, Dundee are defending extremely well just now, but if you keep battering at that door, it will open.
Tierney, low cross, up into the air from the Dundee defender. It's headed by Congreve, chested by McGregor. McGregor to Tinekti. Tinekti infield to McGregor. McGregor to Nygren. Hatate back heel, return to McGregor, but Dundee get a challenge in, and then Congreve battles for it, but Hatate emerges with the ball for Celtic. Out to Tinekti. Tinekti up against two, as he always seems to be at the moment. The Celtic winger, and Dundee have won it back again. Astley this time, and his clearance is blocked by Tierney, and out for a Dundee throw-in down next to the corner flag on the far side. 1-0 to Dundee it remains.
And they've got something to hold on to. The way that Stephen Presley set his team up, the energy that they showed early in the game, the fact that they've got the goal and they're playing with that 5 at the back, and really it has been 5 at the back for most of the time. That doesn't mean to say that they've not been trying to get forward. They have been with Congreve and Wesley in particular supporting Murray, but just now it's just all about defending, isn't it?
Ralston, right hand side of the box, gives it to Tinekti, who's come across to this near side, and then the foul goes in. It's Yang, I beg your pardon, and he's been over eager, and Dundee get the free kick in their own box, and Dundee just managing to keep Celtic at arm's length. They have had the Iheanacho effort from distance off the post, and that good chance for Tierney to equalise, but Stephen Presley will be delighted with what his charges have shown in the opening half hour here at Dens Park. John McCracken ready to take this free kick. Tight in the middle of the pitch as it is launched forward. Carter Vickers up against Wesley, wins the header. Yang plays it for Nygren, and that's a late one on Benjamin Nygren.
He's allowing play to go on.
Advantage being played. Wow. Hamilton was late on Nygren, and now it's Hatate scampering forwards, and then McGregor to Nygren, who seems okay. He's back on his feet and playing on.
Good run, Tony Ralston.
And then Yang, corner of the box, and picks up a Dundee player, and I thought it had, but must have come straight through. Goal kick, and then now Matthew McDermott is having a word with Ethan Hamilton to say, just watch yourself.
It was accidental, wasn't it? I think he tries to pull out. The ball's obviously there. They've started with such a really aggressive style. It's there to be won, especially this sort of game. I just look there at Tony Ralston making that run. It's a decoy run to clear the space for Yang to come inside and play. I just can't quite see that connection between Ralston and Yang.
Yeah, Celtic with 20 goals so far this season. They had 38 after 13 games last season. Mark, and that looked like Liam Scales was on the deck there. That hit off his arm.
Just his two hands up.
Yeah, just kind of controlled it with his both arms out in front of him while he was on the grass, and the Dundee fans none too happy that wasn't penalised. Celtic get on with things. Carter Vickers takes it to the halfway line. Dundee 1, Celtic 0. If you're just joining us live on Sportsound on BBC Radio Scotland. Scales out to Tinekti on the far side. Tinekti taking on his man into the box, and Dundee have to turn it behind for a corner to Celtic.
He's the one player, is it, in the Celtic team at this moment in time. When he gets the ball, you think something could potentially happen. There's no getting away from that. He looks to always get at his opponent and wins his side a corner.
Well, one thing defenders don't like is somebody taking you on constantly.
Nygren's going to take this corner on the far side. Celtic seeking an equaliser. It's over the front post as Iheanacho went up. Dundee clear it back out to Nygren. The Swede sends the ball back into the Dundee box, headed down and away by Astley, and Nygren takes it off Congreve, but illegally, according to referee Matthew McDermott, said it was a pull. So Dundee have a free kick. They have valuable leads in the first half here at Dens as they look to get just their second league win of the season. Celtic at the moment going to stay 5 points behind Heart of Midlothian before their showdown at Tynecastle next week, but still plenty of time left for this game to change. Celtic, of course, came from 2-1 down at a far later stage in the game against Motherwell before the international break, as McCracken sends it forward. Dundee continuing with a direct style of play which has served them well in this opening half, as Ralston plays it straight out the pitch. Brendan Rodgers just trying to clap the team and just get them to be a bit more urgent in what they're doing, but it's a kind of continuation of what we've seen so far this season. And then Hatate and Digby come together in midfield, and Matthew McDermott's going to ask for this throw-in to be retaken as he has a word with the two of them.
I think from a Celtic point of view, it's difficult when, whenever you lose possession, the ball tends to be a long ball from Dundee, in particular if it's back with McCracken in goal, and he's launching the ball to about 30 yards out from the Celtic goal.
Here's Congreve infield, gets the cross in, and Carter Vickers just plays it away, and now Tunekti trying to get out of his own half, and again he's wriggled out of a tight spot, and Celtic have it through McGregor and Carter Vickers, and up to Nygren, first time to McGregor to Tierney. Just looking at Congreve already, he's managed to get quite a few crosses into the box from that far side, and it's like Dundee, any chance they get, it's going into the penalty area, where Celtic just being a bit more deliberate about their build-up. But here's Tunekti coming in field, 1-2 with Nygren, then across to Ralston, and Ralston to Yang, who's forced back the way as Dundee get a press on, and there's Murray going at Carter Vickers, who gets the pass away, and again Hamilton reads a pass in midfield and pinches it off McGregor, and Luke Graham trying to deal with a bouncing ball, then Wesley back to Graham, who sends it immediately forward. Carter Vickers uses his body to control it, then Ralston, who plays it into the middle of the pitch, and Liam Scales has lost sight of that, but luckily Tierney is there to slide it back to Schmeichel.
See, when that ball gets switched out to Ralston, Yang's got to be in the touchline. You've got to create space so that the gaps are big enough for you to play through, and you get the combination. Yang's so 5 yards from Tony Ralston, so it's easier to press from the Dundee perspective. When they do work it from side to side, your opposite wide player has got to be on the touchline so that back five is stretched a bit. At this moment in time, they aren't causing them enough problems.
Like Tunekti is just doing there, as Tierney passes it inside to Liam Scales to Carter Vickers. Looking at his options, goes short to McGregor curls one into the box, and Trey Wright heads it away awkwardly as he was kind of backpedaling. Now Tunekti has it left hand side. McGregor goes for goal from the edge of the box, blocked, and it spins away for a Celtic corner.
Listen, it's good passing and movement in that occasion from Celtic, but it's equalled by the determination of that Dundee back five to defend properly.
Celtic goes short with the corner, it doesn't really come off when it eventually does come into the box, and Carter Vickers the hair back, and that looked a late one from Simon Murray. Free kick is given to Celtic, but they're happy, the referee, to play the advantage, as Yang just goes to ground far too easily when he's challenged by Almari Samuels, and Dundee have it. Hamilton returns it to Clark Robertson, whose goal has Dundee in front against the champions. Digby slides it forward, and Dundee, that was just out of the Congreve's reach. Nygren for Celtic now. Tunekti jinking in field again. McGregor to Ralston in midfield, out to Yang, he has to run out towards the touchline to retrieve it, to touch on what Scott Allen was saying. And then he's got, as you said, the space to run at Samuels.
It's his body shape when he's receiving the ball. It's for Tony Ralston on the ball, body language of your teammate decides whether you give him it or not most of the time. Celtic work it in.
Yeah, trying to work a combination on the other side.
So the one he was pressed from just a couple of moments ago, he should have got out quicker with a bit of urgency, and then opened his shoulders up so he could see the opponent coming in, and then he can either go on the outside or come inside and look to link. But he was doing neither.
Another advantage being played here. Matthew McDermott's like to try and let the game flow. The referee, as Hatate knocks it to Tunekti on the far side. He's up against Congreve, comes in on the right foot, gives it to McGregor, left-footed shot, blocked again. And then it's Hatate to McGregor. back to Hatate. Hatate curls across in, Yang's made the run, comes off his thigh, and then it's forced away by Samuels in the nick of time, and now Dundee will try and break. Good combination as Congreve gets away from 2 Celtic players. He's over halfway, Murray's made the run, he finds Murray with a pass, Ralston's come out, Murray lays it for Hamilton, who made a run from deep, and Scales has had to turn it behind for a Dundee corner.
It's quite incredible, isn't it? The energy. I mean, I watched this team a fortnight ago, and it's a polar opposite of what I'm watching this afternoon. Everything's good about them. The determination to defend, the aggression to put Celtic under pressure, giving Celtic no time on the ball whatsoever, but then having the threat going forward as well, and taking responsibility of running with the ball too. So yeah, it's been long at times, but when they've had the opportunity to get the ball down and run with it, I think it was Hamilton on that occasion making the run forward and causing Celtic all sorts of problems. So it's been quite a performance, certainly one that I was not expecting this afternoon.
And they scored from a corner from the other side. Dundee, Clark Robertson was completely free to head into the bottom corner. This time it's the near side, and it's going to be Dre Wright. Matthew McDermott happy for this to be taken. Right into the 6-yard box, Murray goes up, Tierney's header, and then still bouncing in the penalty area. Shot from distance is off target from Hamilton, and it remains Dundee 1, Celtic 0.
Yeah, it was a good ball in from Dre Wright. I think it was Tierney there with fantastic clearance. Celtic take it quick.
So you don't in many occasions see the Dundee fans standing and applauding their team. They're certainly doing that this afternoon.
As you say, Willie, it's baffling how a team can be so limp one week and so at it the next.
See in Scotland though, see if you're not playing purist football, you can still get your crowd on your back by just competing, and that is exactly what we've seen today.
Yeah, absolutely, it's the basics. Well, basics done very well, very effectively, and Celtic haven't been able to cope with it at times. Looked unsure of themselves. They look like a team unsure of themselves overall this season. Have had enough quality to get the job done, certainly domestically. Unbeaten, and just been beaten in 90 minutes by Braga in that Europa League performance at home, but it's not been swashbuckling stuff. And they trail at Dens Park, which no one expected. As John McCracken he's getting booked for time wasted here by Matthew McDermott. Strange one at this stage of the game, but especially you can just add it at the end of the first half. There's going to be loads of time anyway, but
common sense.
On we go. McCracken sends it long, headed by Scales, and Dundee send it back into the corner. Murray right on the back of Carter Vickers, who is too strong, and shields it out for a Celtic goal kick. And you almost just look at the intensity Hearts are playing with at the moment, and you think of Celtic perhaps going to whatever happens here, but you think of them going to Tynecastle next Sunday. They don't match that intensity. Hearts are going to, with a crowd on their side, with the atmosphere that inevitably will be at Tynecastle, they're going to cause them all sorts of problems.
Yeah, if they continue to play in this vein, so the things we speak about, desire, close to people's second balls, especially at Tynecastle. The difference with Hearts now is Hearts have real quality in their team. They've shown that, they've showed a bit of consistency, they're getting clean sheets. It'll be a real difficult game for Celtic if this was the sort of performance and sort of where they rolled up to Tynecastle. Derek McInnes would be delighted with that.
Absolutely, but there's still time for Celtic to get things right in this game, but they've played, well, not actually played 38 minutes, but the clock says 38 after the delay at the start. They'll have plenty added at the end after the protest that disrupted things, but yet to click into gear. But here comes Celtic. Yang out to Tenekti. Again comes in on that right foot, pass back on the outside, and then the cross is turned away by Astley for a throw into Celtic. Celtic looking for options. It's Tierney on the far side, and he throws it back to Tenekti, then to Scales to Carter Vickers to Ralston, and Nygren, Yang jinks in field, and he's found the pass to Hatate in the box. Hatate back to goal, then lays it to the edge, but it's behind McGregor with a pass, and then it's down the left for Celtic. Tierney, corner of the box, hits off the referee, That just sums up Celtic's first half.
Just by Yang being on the touchline there and in the right position to receive a pass, it managed to open up that pass into Iheanacho, and Celtic are then playing. He just hasn't done it enough.
Callum McGregor out to Tenekte on the far side. Tenekte into the area, onto the right foot, pulls it back for Nygren on the 18-yard line. Now McGregor back to Nygren, and then it's Tenekte. Tenekte takes the byline, gets the cross away and pulled it back nicely, but Dundee stab it out over on the far side. Back to Nygren infield. Murray swarms him, but he gets the pass to Tierney. Now it's Tenekte. Nygren goes down. He slipped there. Benjamin Nygren. A better play from Celtic in and around the penalty area.
It's intense, isn't it? Nygren just, I think he stood in the ball there as he went through and lost his balance. But down that left-hand side, they're pretty hot just now.
And here comes Carter Vickers. Steps up, hits it from distance, takes the deflection, and Ralston will just let this run out for a corner kick. And the Celtic fans roar behind the goal. Finally, they feel that their team are showing something. As we tick towards half-time, they go short with the corner. McGregor, Nygren, Yang, McGregor across to Hatate, 25 yards from goal, sends it into the area. Yang's made a run, header down towards Iheanacho. Brilliant intervention from Dundee as it was bouncing towards the Celtic striker, and it's messy at the edge of the box. It goes up into the air. Dundee free kick, and that passage of play for Celtic comes to an end, and it remains Dundee 1, Celtic 0.
It's definitely brighter in and around the box from Celtic, but Dundee holding firm this moment in time, obviously with that back three, as we spoke about, in that 6-yard box. Anything that is dropping down, it seems to be a Dundee player getting his foot on the ball or head.
Gives you that core, doesn't it, in there? You know, particularly when you've got the lead and you're expecting Celtic to have the vast majority of possession, and that you're going to be put under pressure. They're so important, the three central defenders, that are taking responsibility as well. You know, you've got to anticipate strikes and goal. You've got to be able to close things down. You've got to be able to be brave as well. And all of these things, that's what Dundee are doing. They're showing, great appetite for the game, I would suggest. It's maybe an old-fashioned phrase, but hey, it's working this afternoon.
It's nice to see two teams playing completely different types of way, like a football match again.
And it's played in behind the Dundee defence, but Yang was asking for it to feet from Ralston, and it goes through to John McCracken. And Stephen Presley at the edge of his technical area could scarcely have dreamt of a better first half, albeit they have had a couple more chances that they might have added to their advantage, but Celtic have had two as well, two good ones, as the free kick is given to Dundee just over halfway. It's Tierney, guilty of hauling down Congreve, who's been a real menace. And the Dundee fans getting irate that there's no booking. I don't know why. It wasn't a booking for me, but
no. But hey, they're out for an afternoon supporting their team as well, and you support your team by being vocal. They're certainly enjoying it. They're enjoying what they're seeing, the Dundee fans, this afternoon. I mean, it's been a great performance, because it's not just been about defending. Whenever they've had the opportunity to go forward, and as you said, Tommy, they've created 2 or 3 good opportunities themselves.
Chipped into the Celtic box. Hatate wins the header, bounces for Hamilton, who plays it back to Samuels. Thinks about crossing from deep, and then his pass is poor, but Iheanacho couldn't quite get there, and Digby had no option, but they just basically play a rush ball out the pitch. Just a little lapse there from Samuels, and as Dundee had it in a promising position.
I think that's why they're going a bit direct. A bit more direct today.
Yeah, don't bother passing the ball if you're going to pass it like that. Dundee lead by a goal to 0. We'll have loads of stoppage time here as we head towards the break after the delayed start, as Carter Vickers carries it into Dundee territory. Now it's McGregor out to Tenekte on the left. Tenekte rolls it with the studs. Tierney on the inside, pull back, cleared, and Simon Murray has a slide challenge coming on him, and it's out to Congreve on the far side. Can't keep it in. Celtic throw in. McGregor controls, opens the pitch up, gives it to Carter Vickers. McGregor, Hatate, Scales, Carter Vickers, Ralston so far in the pitch, the Celtic right back. Now it's with Scales. Scales to Tenecti. Tenecti having a go at Dre Wright, goes on the outside. Dre Wright goes shoulder to shoulder. Good strength from the wing back, and he's managed to ensure a goal kick as the outcome as well. Brilliant from Dre Wright.
Yeah, it's good defending from Dre Wright. I'm just looking there in terms of Celtic attacking sense when they have managed to get in behind that back five. I think in an actual, sometimes he's got to get across that front post and drag the centre backs back with him, and then that will create the space for the cut back and hopefully one of your midfielders coming onto the ball. At the moment it's as if they're all waiting for that perfect ball coming across the box. You've got to get across the front post and drag guys with you. That will create the space.
There's the 5 added minutes from the fourth official at the end of this first half. Dundee 1, Celtic 0. Not a shot on target from Celtic yet, just a 1 from Dundee, but it's the goal. 7 shots from Dundee to Celtic's 8, but none on target. And that
tells you how well Dundee have defended though at the same time. In and around that 18-yard box, getting out to stop shots.
Negrin fires it into the feet of Yang on the touchline. Dribbles infield, then gives it to Carter Vickers. McGregor to Scales. Scales to Tenecti. Tenecti jinks to the corner of the box, still running across the pitch, but Wright again gets a brilliant challenge in, and Hamilton purges him out the way to take the ball off him as he charges up to halfway. Now it's out to Congreve. Congreve up to the corner of the box, dummies, then goes back on the outside, cross into the near post. It's 2-0. It's gone in. Wesley celebrates. He got a touch. It might have taken a deflection as well, but it's ended up in the back of the Celtic net, and quite sensationally here at Dens Park, it is Dundee 2, Celtic 0.
That's incredible, isn't it? And the power and the pace and the desire to get forward, and Congreve just does exactly what he needs to do in putting that ball into the area that is really difficult to defend, because all the Celtic defenders are running back the park. They've been running back the park from the halfway line. It was so quick a response from Dundee, and Congreve was brilliant. I mean, it's so much energy and so much pace and desire, and he cuts it across the face of the goal, and then you know anything can happen. I think Ashley does get a little touch on it, or Wesley does get a little touch on it.
I think from a Dundee point of view, it starts with that real pressure from Dre Wright, then Hamilton with that change of pace in the midfield, picks the right ball out to Congreve, and that's that ball we've seen cause Celtic problems in this game. Yes, they haven't quite had the finish as of yet, but Congreve, he stops and it slows Scales down, moves it so sharply and leaves Scales for dead, and then manages to put a fantastic ball across, and Dundee looking to get into the break 2-0 ahead.
It was a little stop, wasn't it, as well, William, and you're like, Scales should be a little bit more thinking about it, knowing that perhaps he's not going to come inside and he's going to go to the line.
You think because he's left-footed though, you automatically think he's looking to get inside and get the shot away. Really clever play from Congreve, but from Liam Scales, and just in terms of these second balls and that pressure that we've seen from Dundee in and around that area, that's where they're getting their joy from. Yang
miscontrols, and Almari Samuels clears it up the line, and Celtic just looking so out of sorts. What a performance this has been from Dundee though, and every time Congreve's got the ball he's managed to get a cross in. Brilliant play from him in the build up to that goal. Here comes Celtic though. Hatate ricochets about, and it's Congreve again. Ghosts away from one.
Wow.
And another, and then this sliding challenge comes in from Tierney, and it's a clean one, and Celtic have it back, but he's a player bursting with confidence, Cam Congreve, as Yang misplaces a pass, and he's fortunate to get that one back. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back out for the second half. Hyun-Jung Yang as Tenecti step over into the box on the other side, then goes back outside, low cross behind Iheanacho. Ralston steps onto it and he blasts it miles over the crossbar, much to the glee of the Dens Park faithful.
No quality at all there from Anthony Ralston. You know, he's got to show composure. I think he could even take a touch. I know it's on to have the strike first time, but if you do that, just get your head over the ball and make sure you're aiming at the target. I mean, how far over the bar did that go? I mean, it was way over the bar. It wasn't just over the bar. You're talking about just a swipe at the ball with no composure whatsoever, and a really good opportunity for him.
Absolutely spot on. Willie, we're talking about basics in terms of defending and getting close to it. That's the basics in terms of a ball coming across you. Head over the ball, don't try and hit it too hard, and Tony Ralston does the complete opposite. And that was a chance for Celtic to neck you again.
And Wesley putting Scales and Bother in the box on the byline, and he'll settle for the corner kick. But the referee's given the goal, or the far side linesman I should say, is given the goal kick instead. And Wesley thought he was going to get the corner there, and he left it. And they've got just seconds left of this first half, and Dundee can scarcely believe it, because they are 2 goals to the good against the champions. And there is the half-time whistle. And who saw this coming? Dundee winless in 46 meetings with Celtic, 39 defeats in that time, many of them heavy, and separated at the bottom of the table by goal difference with just 1 win all season, and they have come out swinging at Dens Park. 2 well-worked goals, the first on 17 minutes, Clark Robertson free in the middle of the box to head home a corner, and then in first half stoppage time, Cam Congreve pulls it back for Joe Wesley to finish to make it 2. Celtic are completely rattled here. They have had chances. Tierney fired one wide, Iheanacho at the post from distance, and Yang had one on a pullback that he probably should have done better with, but ultimately they've not had a shot on target. And at half-time at Dens Park, it is Dundee 2, Celtic 0.
Scottish football lives here.
What a goal!
This is Sports Sound
From BBC Radio Scotland. This is the incredible story of a player rejected by his boyhood club to rise from the ashes and become Serie A's most valuable player.
He was literally enshrined in a part of Naples.
Mick Fratima to the Napoli faithful.
Means brother in Neapolitan dialect.
We're going back to learn about how McTominay was made. This is Scott McTominay, our brother of Naples, on the Scottish Football Podcast. Listen on BBC Sounds.
You're listening to Sports Sound with Liam McLeod this Sunday afternoon. And what a scoreline we have in our hands at Dens Park in the final Premiership action of the weekend, with Dundee leading the champions Celtic by 2-0. Clark Robertson with the opener with the header on 18 minutes. And I think that is going to go down, the second one, as a Carter Vickers own goal. Despite Wesley's initial touch, didn't get a proper angle to see whether Wesley's effort was actually on target. But it certainly bounced off Carter Vickers finally into the net. So quite astonishing scoreline that we have there. And of course this is music to the ears of Derek McInnes and Hearts as well, because if Dundee end this long wait for a victory over Celtic, and Ivano Benetti was their manager the last time they beat them, that was at Celtic Park in 2001. Last time they beat them was at Dens was in 1988, as we discussed pre-match. If they can get this over the line and end the long wait for a win, it's a huge win for them. Takes them back up the table up to 9th, it would be, above Aberdeen and Motherwell. But Hearts would have the chance next Sunday, when they host Celtic, high noon shootout in the capital, to go 8 points clear of them. What an incentive that is for Hearts. If Dundee, and of course Dens Park, the scene of one of Hearts' most heartbreaking days back in 1986, quite incredible opportunity for them to open up some serious daylight come next week. There's still a long way to go. We know comebacks have been woven through Celtic's history, late drama as well. There's still 45 minutes plus stoppages for them to try and sort themselves out. But Scott Allen, what a hole Celtic find themselves in now. And they've not had a single shot on target of the champions. And despite Dundee having 20-odd% of the ball, they deserve this lead, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, Dundee, just as Willie was speaking about in commentary, the basics of football. Wanting to compete, get on second balls, make it hard for your opponent, and when you do turn over the ball, being a threat. Celtic, for me, to a man, just haven't done any of those things, and they're the basics what Celtic fans would be expecting for their team today. They haven't done it. They haven't moved the ball quick. They haven't had that creation in the final third. and it's as poor as I've seen Celtic in a long time, and it's going to take something big, because Dundee now have something to hold on to. To a man, they have defended fantastically and still carry that threat as we speak about, but to not have a shot on target, obviously we know the form that Dundee were in, is really telling of where the Celtic team is at the moment. And I know they're not far off top of the league, but if they roll up to Tynecastle next week like this, and I know a lot can happen in this second half, they will not beat this Hearts team at this moment in time, not for me. So it'll be really interesting to see what Brendan Rodgers will do at half time. We'll have to make changes, because that can't be, there's no way you can accept what you just watched from some of the players out there, and that just comes down to your basic fundamentals of football. Forget your tactics, forget technical ability, just up against your man and wanting to win the ball and wanting to get close to him, make it difficult. Celtic just haven't done that, and Dundee to a man have, and rightly so, as you say, 2-0 ahead.
We'll be joined by Stephen Thompson and Stephen Craigan from around about 2 o'clock this afternoon. We're on air until 5, so we've got plenty of time to get into all the talking points, and featuring in that clearly will be Hearts and the position they find themselves in the Premiership, and it could be an even better position come full time. They're already 5 points clear of the champions. Their goal difference right now is plus 13. Celtic's plus 6 as it stands, with half of this game still to go. I mean, it's night and day for Stephen Presley from Pittodrie 15 days ago, Scott. It's a brilliant turnaround for them. Clark Robertson's header, incidentally, superb. I don't think you'll have been able to see a replay where you are at Dens Park, but it's a wonderful header. There was a little check for a possible offside, but there was no question that goal was going to stand. And the second one, I mean, I think Congreve's been outstanding all day for Dundee. He has given that left side of the Celtic defence a really hard time, and he had a hand to play in that second goal, as well as his tenacity that brought it about, really, wasn't it, on the counter? Yeah, he's been a standout in this first half. Obviously before the second goal, and that the similar sort of ball had been causing Celtic problems. This time they tuck it away, but he's been a real menace down that right side. Obviously left footed, looking to come in, but can go both ways, as we see for the second goal. But both goals, listen, it's a great header from Clark Robertson, but it looks as if he's standing free in the box. Fantastic delivery. I think it's Congreve with the delivery as well for the first one. Yeah. Congreve with the delivery for the first one. Fantastic ball, but Clark Robertson standing free in the Celtic box and tucks it away. So listen, it'd be really troubling watching that performance from a Celtic perspective. From Dundee, Stephen Presley has got his game plan absolutely spot on. No thrills about it, just direct football, getting up against Celtic, making them defend at times, and then when they don't have the ball, they're getting men behind the ball and getting close to Celtic players, making it really difficult to be played through. When the ball does go wide, you get that back free in that 6-yard box, getting their toe or their head on everything. So from their point of view, Stephen Presley's, the game plan's been absolutely spot on, and it's now up to Brendan Rodgers to show what he's about in terms of tactically, in terms of players coming on, and what he can get out of his side, because that has been nowhere near good enough for Celtic, especially after seeing Hearts' performance last night. And they would have seen it, no question about that. For them to stay on the tails, that to follow up with that sort of performance, especially in that first half, has been nowhere near the level. Yeah, I mean, for Celtic, Iheanacho had the early shot, didn't he, which kind of came off the outside of the post, and then Kieran Tierney found himself in on goal, and he smashes it just wide. It was good build up by Celtic at that point. If either of those goes in, then we could be looking at a completely different match here, but of course it hasn't. John McCracken in the Dundee goal has barely had anything to do with regards to making saves. A lot of that down to his defence, though. I was going to say, Scott, because Stephen Presley said to us before the match, he said we have to defend properly today. My goodness, they have so far, haven't they? Yeah, and I said at the top of the show how important it was going to be today for Dundee to engage and get body contact against these Celtic players and make it as difficult as possible. Yes, sometimes players of that quality do manage to find a way, but that gives you that momentum and gets the crowd on your back. I think I said it to Willie, and I think with modern day football, we're all looking for everything to look brilliant in terms of the build-up and the play. That was just good old making it hard for your opponent, and it gets the crowd on your back, on your side, and puts the other team under real pressure. Celtic just haven't looked comfortable. Even any sort of time Celtic have been under pressure from a Dundee player, look, they're going to give the ball away. So it need to be a huge change in performance for Celtic come second half. But at the same time,
2-0's never a safe lead, especially against the Celtic side. So
I honestly, I said, I can't remember who I was talking to about this on air, but I said, why do you football people always talk about 2-0 being a funny lead? You'd much rather that than 1-0, wouldn't you? You
would, but it's momentum. So when it goes to 2-1, you go, do we drop deeper? Do we keep going?
It's funny. It's a
momentum is everything in football.
Liam, I always thought that was game over if we were 2 up.
Yeah, of course. Of course, Mr. Clean Sheet. Of course, and Dundee keep a clean sheet. It's a 2-0 win. Maybe more. Maybe they'll fancy scoring more goals and end this long wait for a victory over Celtic. But huge concerns, Willie, for Brendan Rodgers, because when you see Celtic this season, and they've been getting results more often than not still, and obviously their performances come under the microscope with a negative result, as this would be as it stands right now, there's just shades for me of the 2020-21 season when they were going for 10 in a row. It just looks like this is a team that's gone a season too far.
Yeah, and things are not going well. Protests don't help. The lack of signings, inspirational signings, lack of quality in the penalty box, Liam. Dundee are defending well. They've got that back five. They've got the 3 strong centre backs, and they're all doing their job extremely well. But Celtic have got to be better than this. You're watching the build-up play, and we know at times Celtic can be a slow build-up play. Actually, when they move it quickly and their passings are sharper than the passages of play that actually put Dundee under a little bit of pressure. Dundee are just throwing their bodies. They're making the good blocks. They're well organised. They're disciplined, and you know what, they've got belief. That you can see it's oozing out their veins, and whenever they get a chance to go forward as well, they've been brilliant in doing that. But as far as Celtic's concerned, they leave themselves open. Just the 2 centre backs at times that are defending. The 2 full-backs are away forward, leaving huge gaps. So when they do get the opportunity, then they've taken it. And they've taken it, by getting the head down, by simple football, by running at the Celtic defenders, by putting crosses into the box. And it's 2-0. It could actually be 3 or 4. And Celtic really haven't done anything creative in the Dundee penalty box. So it's not been easy for them to defend. But it hasn't been as difficult as it should be. The Celtic are lacking quality. They're lacking quality in their front 3, I would suggest, and they're not showing any signs of breaking this Dundee side down. Stephen Presley talk about learning. Listen, the game that I watched at Pittodrie, this is night and day. This is night and day. If he's been able to turn that attitude around, and it's not been. I don't think he's set his team out to be defensive minded. Yeah, they've got to defend. I think that's perfectly fine, and they defend with 5 and they defend with the 2 in front, and even the front 3 are going back to help out defensively as well. But see, when they get the opportunity to hit in the counter, my goodness, they go quickly, and it's a really difficult situation for Celtic to deal with.
Yeah, and I mentioned there to Scott, Willie, about Congreve. He's been a complete danger to Celtic down that side of the pitch. I know it's not had a direct impact on the Celtic players' performance. The protest against the board beforehand when the tennis balls came on, there was 5 minutes of stoppage time at the end as a result of that. But you got the Celtic players there, bending over to throw tennis balls off the pitch when they should be, with their minds firmly fixed on trying to win the football match. They're not 2-0 down because of that, Willie, but it can't have helped.
No, it doesn't help.
There's this thing around the club right now that it must spread to the players.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. Both myself and Scott, you're out there. You've built yourself up. You've built yourself up to start the game. It's actually at their end as well. You know what I mean? They're disrupting their own team by throwing these tennis balls onto the pitch as well. And it's rather embarrassing watching both sets of players having to pick these tennis balls up and throw them off the field of play. And it's embarrassing from a Scottish point of view as well. I think outside our country, other countries looking on and seeing that kind of a protest. There's other ways of protesting.
But these are fans, Willie, that have celebrated 29 trophy lifts in 14 years.
Yeah, and they're not helping the club. They're not helping the club by making this sort of a protest. There's many ways of making the process that they're not happy with what's going on at Celtic Park, because they can see it as well. You know, we have spoken about the lack of quality that Celtic are showing. You know, we're taking into consideration the high standard that Celtic have set here, by the way. So we're taking that into consideration. And
absolutely, yeah.
You know, when we're saying that they're not up to the standard, not up to the standard that they have set, they're not anywhere near the standard that they have set. That's why they're 2-0 down here. But the fans aren't helping it with this sort of a protest. That's all I'm saying. I think they can protest other ways, and they've got a right to protest because they're not happy. And I know that they've won all these trophies, but fans live in the moment, Liam. You know that. They live in the moment. They're not happy with what they're seeing. Celtic have got to turn it round. Brendan Rodgers has got to turn it round. I think he's going to do that by making some substitutions in the second half,
which is about to get underway. What a monumental 45 minutes this is. As I said, the two Stevens will be with me at 2 o'clock. We'll look back at yesterday's action. We'll look at the international game as well, amongst a whole host of other things. We're also going to hear from Peter Schmeichel, Casper's father, who'll be the next guest on Sacked in the Morning. We'll have a little dip into that as well. There's SWPL action, which we'll get into too. But right now, second half, Dundee 2, Celtic 0 is the half-time scoreline. Scott Allen, Willie Miller and Thomas Duncan will talk you through this huge 45 minutes at Dens.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. And Brendan Rodgers has made 2 changes at the break. Johnny Kenny is on up front for Celtic, and James Forrest is also on. Yang has gone off, and Tony Ralston is the other player to go off. So it's going to be potentially 3 at the back for Celtic. Yep. I don't know, it looks like
they've done it the other week, didn't they? They went to the 3 in the home game in Europe, so it looks like he's done that again.
Yeah, they're lining up with Carter Vickers on the right, Scales in the middle, Tierney left centre back, and then Hatate, Negrin and McGregor in midfield, and then we've obviously got Tenekti, Forrest, Iheanacho and Kenny now on in the attacking areas, and we're underway. Can Dundee reproduce what was a sensational first half performance that few, if any, saw coming? And Celtic set about their work getting back into this game straight away as McGregor finds Negrin and Forrest on the right hand side, drives infield, and McGregor, Hatate, McGregor, edge of the box, challenge goes in, Dundee clear but it hits off Hatate, and then Tenekti back to Scales out to Tenekti, and now Tierney back to the winger on this near side. Tierney, Negrin, Hatate is passed through to McGregor, who'd made a run, just snuffed out by Dundee, who clear, and you feel like this might be the pattern of the second half. Dundee managed to defend their box while carrying a huge threat in the first half. Can they continue to find that balance in the second, or is it going to just be backs to the wall, bodies on the line, and try and keep Celtic at bay? Because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Dundee as they need to close this gap to Hearts back to 2 points. Hatate forward towards Kenny. It's cleared out on this near side. Throw in to Celtic, taken quickly to the feet of Tierney to McGregor and Carter Vickers. Iheanacho, Forrest to Carter Vickers, and I think those half-time changes, perhaps an indictment of Celtic's right-hand side, which Celtic, or Brendan Rodgers I should say, has been clear in pointing out the lack of recruitment in that area in the summer, as Carter Vickers controls and gives it to Iheanacho, who's pulled out to the right-hand side, 1-2 with Negrin, but the return is under hit, which means Iheanacho has to really battle for it. He has done well though to get it to Scales, who passes it straight out the pitch behind Kieran Tierney. And, well, they're not going to get back into the game with passes like that.
No, they're not, and you know, although Brendan Rodgers made the changes, it hasn't really changed the pattern of play, has it? You know, Dundee still look very compact, they look very comfortable, they've got that 5 across the back. Celtic are really struggling to find any kind of a little pockets of space. They've got two up top now, which might make a difference. But you would think a good way to hit these two strikers is maybe to get it wide and actually get wingers, and I think that's what Brendan Rodgers will be looking for either side. Get wingers hitting the byline and putting crosses across the face of the goal that are always difficult to defend.
I'm just looking at it in terms of Taneki's position in that wing back position. He is really high, looking obviously to Pindray right back, and then Hatate and Nygren on both sides are looking to play off the sides of the two centre midfielders for Dundee, Digby and Hamilton. If you can get that pass in to the outside, that's where you can get the combinations and get you in behind that Dundee stubborn defence, and then you then have the two strikers in the box. So it'll be interesting to see how it plans out, because you'd be surprised if Dundee can maintain the sort of aggression and intensity they did in the first half. It takes a lot out of you, especially when you don't have the ball, and whether that will let Celtic back into the game.
Carter Vickers gives it to Scales, and then McGregor forces it to the near side to Tierney. Back to Scales. Celtic went through the first half without a single shot on target. They're going to need at least two to get a point out of this game, as Forrest moves it out to Hatate. Dummies, comes back on the left foot, and his cross is overhit and sails behind for a Dundee goal kick. The confidence and quality just not there for Celtic.
It's got to be better than that, though, isn't it, from Hatate? I don't know many players were in that penalty box, and he hasn't picked out one other than green and white hoops or a blue jersey. It's just a dreadful cross, but that's what pressure does to you. The quality of the player that he is. He should be at least putting it in a dangerous area so that Dundee are asked to defend, and given these two strikers that he's now got an opportunity to go and attack it.
And even if they don't, just having the two strikers up there, it allows them to challenge one of the centre backs each, and then the ball can maybe break the box and one of your attacking midfielders then get on the ball. So you've got to ask the question. But Celtic from minute one have been loose in possession. There's no getting away from that. That quality that we do expect from some of these players just hasn't been there.
Liam Scales misjudged that bouncing ball, and it allowed Simon Murray to get a strike away, but it just dribbled through from distance to Kasper Schmeichel. Scales to Tierney and McGregor. Hatate comes inside, finds Nygren, and McGregor to Necti for Nygren, first time to McGregor. Nygren's made a run, and it's Hamilton gets a boot on it, bouncing in the box, and Hamilton manages to clear properly at the second attempt. Tierney has to go back, and all he can do under pressure from Congreve is force it out for a Dundee throw-in short of halfway.
And you see that pressure as well for Congreve on Tierney. What a difference that makes when you're playing in a team, that you see the energy that you've got in front of you. If you're a defender and you're being put under the pressure that the Dundee defence have been put under, and then the ball goes a little bit loose. But you see one of your midfield players, stroke attacking players, going and putting someone like Kieran Tierney under that pressure and winning the ball back, then it gives everybody a lift. It gives not just the players but the fans as well.
Yeah, you're spot on. Well, it's that body language we talk about when you're a defender and you're looking. It goes long. And you're looking at one of your attacking players going with that intensity, you naturally just go with the intensity that he sets off at. And that's what Dundee have done so well. He's in.
And Hamilton, he's played for Simon Murray. He's in the left-hand side of the box. Carter Vickers goes across and gets a brilliant foot in as Simon Murray tried to cut in on that right foot. But Hamilton again managing to in a good position with the ball and play through Murray. And Celtic were cut open momentarily there.
Hamilton's decision making when he has turned over the ball has been outstanding. He's picked the right pass many a times today on the counter attacks, showed some great energy. I just think Simon Murray, when he's come inside, can he lift it? Can he lift it over Carter Vickers' legs, make him make a decision whether to pull him, get the shot away?
Onto the byline for Forrest. Dangerous cross, it's over everyone though. And Tierney can't really gather at the far side over the near side of the box, but that's better from Celtic in terms of getting into a dangerous crossing position. Just a wee bit too high from Forrest as he flashed it over the 6-yard box. Scales into Kenny, challenge from Hamilton again. Breaks back, Carter Vickers nips in front of Simon Murray. McGregor to Nygren. Negrin takes it to the right hand side of the box, chops onto the left foot, curls the ball in. Kenny on the stretch, and the free kick is given to Dundee. Matthew McDermott blowing ups with a high foot there, and Dundee breathe another sigh of relief. But even 8 minutes into this second half, John McCracken has yet to make a save.
Yeah, same pattern, isn't it, to the game? You know, Celtic having a lot of the ball, but you know, I think they're playing it into the wrong areas. You know, there must be a case to just get it into the wide areas and then not go and support it. Actually allow the two, Konecki and Forrest, to go and try and take on the wing backs. You know, try to expose the space. Try to do what they're good at doing, and that's taking on defenders. But you've got to isolate them first, and then put crosses into the box, because you've got two targets there as well now. I think that's what they're trying to achieve, but they're not really. You know, most of their passing is going too central. Should be in the wide areas.
Hamilton picks up in midfield, and he's bundled to the ground there by Johnny Kenny, who's obviously eager to impress. Has scored this season against Livingston, but just his fifth appearance of this campaign. And it's a big responsibility on his shoulders to try and help get Celtic back into this game. And of course, another area that the fans were frustrated they didn't recruit in the summer window, especially after letting Adam Ida go to Swansea City so late in August, not signing a replacement. Kyogo, of course, leaving in January. As Dundee hit it forward, Murray goes after it, knocked back to Schmeichel, who fires it into McGregor in his own penalty area, and then calmly strokes it to Negrin, who dribbles towards halfway and then slides the pass to Forrest on the right touchline. Forrest goes down the outside, and cross is blocked by a sliding Amari Samuels, and Dundee clear. Scales to Carter Vickers, to McGregor. Negrin, Forrest, McGregor, Scales, waiting for some movement, gets some from Hatate, edge of the box, now it's to Nekte, cross is blasted miles away from any green and white hook jerseys, and that was such a promising position that Sebastian Tunekte got himself into it. Hammered the cross. Kenny back to goal, offloads it, now it's Scales, gives it to Tunekte, he'll have another go on this near side, strokes it to McGregor, edge of the D, McGregor, Forrest, corner of the box, McGregor to Iheanacho onto the left foot, curls it into the box, and it bounces harmlessly behind for another Dundee goal kick. Dundee 2, Celtic 0, and Dundee, I think, are going to make a change here. Yeah, and it is Simon Murray, the captain, is going to be withdrawn, and it's going to be Ashley Hay, the former Brentford man, who is going to come on up front. And Dundee fans, some of them getting to their feet as Simon Murray applauds three corners of Dens, and he heads off. It's just been Simon Murray, not in a goal scoring sense that we saw last season, but just intensity closing down, and his work's done.
Well, he's an intense person, isn't he? You can see it. He's a passionate guy as well. There's hugs going on down there, slightly different from 2 weeks ago at Pittodrie. That frustration is certainly not there as he takes his bow from the fans, and rightly so. He's worked extremely hard.
Hay wins the header first up, bounces for Tierney, who leathers it down the touchline. Kenny goes after it, and he's not quite managed to keep it in under severe pressure. Dundee 2, Celtic 0. This would be the most sensational result of the season thus far if it was to play out as the scoreline suggests just now.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, nobody coming to the ground, you know, and if you watched any of the game at Pittodrie, then you wouldn't have given Dundee a chance, but they've turned it round completely. So the work that's been done has been first class. Stephen Presley can be absolutely delighted so far with how his team has performed this afternoon, and Celtic are really struggling. They need to get something back quickly. Otherwise, you can see it. I know they're renowned for scoring late goals, but Dundee don't look as though they're going to falter.
I just can't remember a Celtic game that I've covered where they've tested the goalkeeper less. It's a testament to Dundee's defending as well, of course. But
the key for me is if Dundee can maintain the energy levels. At this moment in time, they're managing to do that. They're forcing Celtic to deliver from areas where they can't quite pick someone out.
Negrin forces it into the box, bounces for Hatate on the edge, strike from distance, wide of the left-hand post. Not a million miles away from Rio Hatate, and a bit better from Celtic, but they still trail 2-0.
Just a snapshot from Hatate there, trying to find that bottom right-hand side corner. Flashes by John McCracken's post.
And another day it might find the back of the net, but it just looks as though anything Celtic try, it's just not coming off for them. It wasn't particularly good play, a little bit of good fortune to it as well, and Hatate, although a good strike, was just off target.
Negrin battling with Hamilton in the air and falls for Celtic. Forrest back heel flick to Carter Vickers, who fires it through to Hatate. It's won by Congreve, who gets the return ball from Dre Wright just over halfway. Congreve with 3 Celtic players around him, and he's not managed to fend them all off, unfortunately, for Dundee, but he's been sensational. Basically assisted both goals with the corner and the cross that Wesley got a touch on that eventually went in off Carter Vickers. Both of Dundee's goals. Tinekti rolls it with the studs, dances infield, edge of the box, closed down by Hamilton. He's been another standout for Dundee. Hard to single out players in an all-round team display as Celtic's ball towards the goal just trundles through to McCracken. And managers are always in these performances, it's a team display, and of course that's right, but I think Hamilton is just the way he's conducted himself in that midfield area has been impressive. Headed out by Celtic of the defence. Dre Wright though has picked up the scraps, fires it into Hay, and then plays it off Scales, and it's going to run for a throw into Dundee down near the corner flag on this near side.
And to be honest, that's all you're really looking for from Dundee now. They've done all the hard work. They've created opportunities. They've scored the 2 goals. They've got the fans right behind them. It doesn't have to be elegant football anymore. It just has to be sensible stuff. Just continue doing what they're doing, and if they can run down the clock, all the better.
Trey Wright throws it to Congreve. Looked like it hit his arm there, and Tierney plays it out for another Dundee throw on this near side. Celtic at home to Sturm Graz on Thursday night in the Europa League. Then that massive game at Tynecastle, and as it stands, before that one, Hearts are going to have a 5-point advantage with a chance to go 8 clear in the Premiership next Sunday, unless Celtic can retrieve things here in a performance the likes of which we've not seen here today so far against Hearts. Dundee throwing, Hay with a header going towards the bottom corner, and it just drifts wide of the post as Schmeichel scrambled across and leapt to try and turn it behind. He didn't need to in the end, but Dundee close to making it 3-0.
It's a great effort from Hay, but again we're talking about contact, first and second contact. A Dundee player in the Celtic box, and it's happened time and time again in this game. And it doesn't come from any great play. It's, as Willie says, they're getting decisions and keep the ball down the corner, getting throw-ins and putting Celtic under real pressure.
It's been football simplified this afternoon, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
From Dundee, and it's working a treat.
Out to Forrest for Celtic on the right touchline. Goes back to Carter Vickers. McGregor to Scales. Scales carries forward, gives it to Hatate. Hatate to Tierney. Tierney looking for Tinekti, but won by Dundee. Tierney heads it back to Scales. Then over to Carter Vickers. Dundee just shuffling across, keeping the work rate, keeping the concentration. As you feel if one goes in for Celtic, that's when the pressure really comes on. They haven't looked like it so far though. Here comes Tinekti. Step over, then goes back on the outside with a little back heel flick, but Dre Wright, good strength and recovery, and then it's broken for Celtic and the cross went in from Kenny. Dundee managed to clear it. Tierney's cross is blocked. Corner kick in front of the Celtic end.
Yeah, but they're holding firm, aren't they? They seem to they have got plenty of bodies in that penalty box. Every player is in that penalty box, so it's really difficult for Celtic to find any kind of space without a blue jersey intercepting.
Nygren's corner, outswinger, header from Kenny, and then Iheanacho, and McCracken finally has to make a save as he made himself big at the near post to turn it behind for a corner.
Chance for Celtic. Kenny there gets a little nod. It falls to Iheanacho from a really tight angle, I must say, but John McCracken does well to spread himself.
Yeah, they've been doing well to score from there, although having said that, Lazatic did it for Aberdeen yesterday. Is Nygren in swinger, header from Clark Robertson out to the far side, and it's a Celtic throw-in. And they're going to have a couple of Celtic changes. Luke McCowan and Michel-Ange Balaquisha are coming on. Benjamin Nygren is coming off, and the other player coming off is Sebastian Tinekti. So Nygren and Tinekti off, Balaquisha and McCowan on. McCowan, of course, a former Dundee captain, applied his trade here with aplomb a couple of seasons, and now on to try and plot their downfall. The Scales collects, and Brendan Rodgers now made 4 changes. The first 2 have had no discernible impact. Here's Tierney. That's a better ball. Falls to Kelechi Iheanacho. Brilliant stop from McCracken. And him in a combination of, is that Hamilton in there, or?
I think that was Luke Graham.
Yeah, Luke Graham it was. Both of them just threw themselves at it, the goalkeeper and centre back, and prevent Iheanacho from pulling one back.
Great ball in from Kieran Tierney. That was the one who got the right shape on it. Because you now have their bodies in the box, it makes it difficult for the Dundee players. And it falls to Iheanacho, and you think he's got an age to put it in the back of the net. Luke Graham, a fantastic box, as you said, between him and John McCracken. They managed to smother it.
And Liam Scales was forced to slide in to prevent a Dundee corner there from just a straight long ball. And it's going to be another throw-in right next to the corner flag, and Ryan Astley is up. And the last one, Hay got up and almost headed into the far corner. Here it comes, Astley, long run up, flings it to the near post, and glanced by Carter Vickers. Congreve's header. Referee blows the whistle for a Celtic free kick. It remains Dundee 2, Celtic 0. A stunning result on the cards here at Dens Park on Sunday Sports Sound live on BBC Radio Scotland. We're with you till 5 o'clock tonight, with reaction and interviews here at Dens Park, and then plenty more to come with Liam and Stephen Craigan and Stephen Thompson will be in the studio from 2 o'clock. Well, we've still got 25 minutes plus stoppages of the second half for Celtic to try and get themselves back into it, and McCowan's made a good run the left of the box. His delivery is blocked by Robertson. Corner.
Again, it's good defending, isn't it? Clark Robertson just identifying the danger, getting himself over there, getting the block in. They've done it on so many occasions. It's been a well-drilled outfit, defensive outfit in particular.
McCowan with a left foot, outswinger, glanced away to the edge of the box. McGregor controls, rifles a shot low, blocked and cleared down towards Schmeichel. Dundee answering every question Celtic are asking at the moment. Forrest on the right touchline. Forrest got 3 dark blue jerseys in front of him. Plays it back to McGregor. Square for Scales. Scales to Balaquisha. Now Tierney to Balaquisha. Balaquisha onto the right foot. Puts the cross in, and it's turned over the bar by Clark Robertson. Yet another Celtic corner.
You've just got to be strong and stand up to this onslaught, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got to stand for him. Celtic asking questions now.
McCowan after the short corner, and that's just the clearance has hit off Carter Vickers and gone behind for a goal kick. Iheanacho reckons it's a corner, but it's not. Dundee have the goal kick, and they have the 2-goal lead they built in the first half through 2 well-worked goals. Clark Robertson from a corner, and then Carter Vickers' own goal after Congreve teed up Wesley, deflected in off the Celtic defender. That's the difference between the sides. Still, Celtic have made 4 changes, haven't managed to get on the score sheet yet. Hatate goes up and comes off his head, and it'll be a Dundee throw 10 yards into the Celtic half. And that's what Stephen Presley will be just desperate for. Territory. Just try and get up the pitch when you can. Bit of respite as Dundee move towards a first win over Celtic for 24 years and a first win at Dens it would be if they can hang on to it, as Hamilton just can't quite control as Dundee works into the middle of the pitch, and then it's thumped long and behind for a Celtic goal kick. But yeah, it would be a first win since 1988. 37 years here at Dens over Celtic. Incredible.
It is incredible, isn't it, when you think that length of time has passed by without a victory for the Dens Park side. But I'll tell you what, they thoroughly deserve it if they're going to win this game. Still a little bit of time to go, and but the indication is that Celtic don't really have, that's not going anywhere. Celtic don't really have the answer, the quality, the combinations, to break this defence down, and they're so well drilled. Listen, Stephen Presley's got to take a huge amount of the credit for this performance, the energy, the determination that they've shown on the back of that 4-0 defeat, and the defensive appetite just to defend, just to get your body in front of anything that struck at you. But the organisation, not just that physical side of it, the organisation's been superb as well.
Scales heads the long ball up. Hatate goes down, claiming it was an arm from Digby. The referee does award the free kick. Well, tell me this, Scott. I mean, quite often when Celtic are trying to get forwards, it's Liam Scales in a sort of central midfield position, playing it forward. As a midfielder yourself, surely you're wanting your centre-halves to stay back, and you're the player trying to play the passes into the final third.
Yeah, but in terms of how Celtic do play, we see them week in, week out, Carter Vickers and Liam Scales. They do that so that when they do turn over the ball, you can obviously regain the ball and sustain attack, so that you, instead of just having one attack, you can make it 2 or 3 just by the positioning obviously of your 2 centre backs. But for me, at this moment in time, Celtic aren't really playing within a structure. It's all getting a bit desperate in terms of hoping that one of your players with a bit of quality is going to show a bit of magic.
And here it might be pulled back. That was Kenny stepping onto it as McCowan went into the box, and it's won a corner.
I think that's probably what they need, though, Scott, isn't it? It's just someone to step up to the plate, someone to do something special, to find that goal, just to lift the Celtic fans and the Celtic players as well.
McCowan corner whipped in at the near post. It's won by Hay. Hatate's free and he chests it down. Penalty given. Penalty for handball. Hatate chested it down, unleashed the strike, and the defender who rushed out, it's clearly struck an arm according to the referee, and he points to the spot immediately. There may be a VAR reprieve, but for right now, Celtic have a penalty and a chance to get back into this game with 20 plus stoppage time remaining.
I think it's Paul Digby, is it? Listen, if his hand's out at all and it's hit his hand, then obviously I think it's going to stand. I mean,
he looked close, didn't he? He looked really close though, even as the contact was made. But I think I don't think you can get out the way of it, but they tend to give it if your hand's out with your body. I think when you come out of that intensity, you give the referee a decision to make, because you're not in control. You're going out. That wee panic sets in. Hatate's got the ball here, I want to block the shot, and that's how they played all over the pitch. And you obviously leave yourself open for the referee to maybe give a penalty, but we'll see how the VAR goes here.
And your arm actually moves when you're running out towards someone as
Absolutely.
well. They say it's in an unnatural position. You try to run out with your hands behind your back, and it's impossible.
Maybe try that later.
Well, it's similar to the one Celtic caught against Motherwell, in that it's a shot from close range, arms potentially out, and that was given. But we're now just waiting here to see what the officials make of it. The VAR is Gavin Duncan, who'll be poring over the footage now, and it's a nervous wait for the home fans here and everyone, the players, even the Celtic players. And well, Michael Stewart is here on sports scene duties, and he's maybe seen a replay and suggesting it may have come off his chest of Digby, so that's interesting. We don't have the monitors alongside us here, so we can't see that.
You just never know.
Well, don't trust Mikey.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
No, he is taking a while, as Michael points out here, to make the decision, which means that it's going to be a close call here. Where does the ball strike the player? His arm's out, but does it hit the arm? Oh, he's going to go to the monitor here. So this looks like Michael is spot on. that it's probably come off the chest, but it's the referee who has to make the ultimate call, and he's trotting across now, Matthew McDermott, to review this. And Celtic thought they may have had a penalty here, but going by a track record of on-field reviews probably means that they're not going to have one here.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? You know, when VAR's asked the referee to go over and have a look, there's obviously doubt in their mind, and I think that then puts doubt in the referee's mind, and here we go, here's the decision.
I suspect we know what it will be, and it will be greeted with huge cheers by the Dundee fans. There you go, no penalty. And the Dundee fans celebrate it like a goal.
That would have been a huge reprieve for Celtic to get back in the game, wouldn't it have?
Yeah, because Hatate's shot wasn't going on target, I don't think, as well. So
it was going well over, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was always on the rise.
Change coming here. Finlay Robertson is going to come on for Dundee, and he's going to replace Joe Wesley, who is getting a warm reception as he goes off. He was involved in the second goal, got a touch, and off Carter Vickers has gone down as an own goal. Finlay Robertson, the Dundee fan, is on to try and see out this game. We've played 29 minutes of the second half, and it is still Dundee 2, Celtic 0. Dundee go long, Scales wins the header. Digby goes up against Hatate, who's won it. McGregor, McCowan round the corner, but it's straight to Astley. Now Dre Wright, and caught there by Johnny Kenny. Fast feet from the wing back right on the touchline, and he buys the foul. And everything going Dundee's way at the moment.
He doesn't have to get quickly up to his feet either, Dre Wright, that's for sure. Just another few seconds, few minutes.
Couldn't hold that against him, Willie, could we?
No, absolutely not. After 27 years, absolutely not.
And that's a free kick. I think it was miscued, but Clark Robertson came a long way across and almost got there, but it does go through to Schmeichel in the end. Celtic just haven't looked comfortable defending their own box today at all. As Carter Vickers gives it to Forrest. Forrest goes back on the outside with a lovely little bit of footwork, but he's quickly pinned down again, and Dundee have won the throw off James Forrest as well. And just Celtic, nothing going in their favour at the moment. And Dundee on course for a deserved victory as it stands.
They're the little moments where you are under a bit of pressure. You've got the 2-0 goal lead and they go in your favour. It's such a relief as a player. They seem to be going in Dundee's favour at this moment in time.
I think they've worked hard enough for it though, haven't they? You know, I think they deserve a little bit of good fortune at this stage. James Forrest there, you know, two players back. There was nowhere for him to go. You know, he can be a huge threat, but Dundee defending so well that he just had to check back on it.
Congreve is flagged. He's given a free kick in Dundee's favour here. You know, is Balakusha and Tierney having a nibble at him, and he had been penalised. It's a Dundee free kick 10 yards in from the right hand touchline. Given how dangerous they've looked from their set pieces, a good chance. 3-0 will be lights out, I think, for Celtic.
Just deliver it in an area and see if Celtic can defend it, because they haven't been very good at defending anything that's went into their box this afternoon, that's for sure.
Congreve, two of his deliveries have led to goals this afternoon. Can he do it again from this near side? Left-footed, raises the right arm, delivers it to the back post, and the header comes in. It ricochets off the post, and it's lashed away eventually by Scales. Dundee's so close to a third goal. Dearie me, Celtic just not dealing with crosses into their box at all.
From minute one, Celtic look very vulnerable from any sort of cross ball.
They just don't seem to have the appetite to go and win that first header, do they? Make the first contact. And I think Schmeichel was a little bit reluctant to come out and go into it. I wouldn't really blame him. I think that's more the responsibility of the two centre-backs in particular.
McGregor to Hatate. 12 and a half minutes of this game remaining plus stoppage time. Balikwisha on the left hand side finds Tierney, pulls it back, McCowan miscues, and it falls to Hatate, and he's blasted it wide. It's taken a deflection on its way through, and that may just have saved Dundee conceding. Celtic corner.
That's magnificent. I'm not too sure who it is that's actually thrown his body at that one as Hatate put the laces through it, and it's deflected off him. It was almost just like a dive in front of the ball, just to try and hope that he might be able to get a deflection on it. Was it Luke Graham? I think it was.
Yeah,
Luke Graham. And it's a dive, isn't it? I mean, he's low, he's down, he's just
by any way possible,
anything, just to make sure that ball doesn't end up in the back of the net.
Summed up Dundee this afternoon at Dens Park. Celtic corner, McCowan left-footed, one in the air by Graham, then Samuels flicks it, Balikwisha picks it up, McCowan's cross takes a deflection, and Digby has to turn it behind at the back post, but the referee has signalled that's already gone out, I think. And Iheanacho is down in a heap on the byline as he went to try and attack that ball, which was stood up to the back post. He sits up now, the Celtic striker.
Just going back to that chance for Celtic, it was a fantastic run from Kieran Tierney. First time you've really seen him at the byline in the second half. And I think Johnny Kenny gets across the front post, and that creates that space for the cutback, which we spoke about in the first half. 3 Dundee players back in the box, maybe for a good thing though, because they managed to get the block on it, but allowed Celtic to get a shot away.
Yeah, McCowan just kind of fluffed his lines when it came back to him, broke to Hatate. It was a really good strike from the Celtic midfielder, but crucial touch from Graham. And it's a Dundee throw in as Carter Vickers heads it out. Every little throw in, every free kick, every challenge one is a boost for Dundee's tiring legs. What a shift they've put in. Astley, his pass out is blocked and it spins for McCowan, who's moving towards the corner of the box. He's pulled back there by Hamilton. It will be a Celtic free kick, and the yellow card comes out for Ethan Hamilton, the Dundee midfielder. And this is what you call taking one for the team from Ethan Hamilton. Spent much of his career, pretty much all of it, in England. Someone started out at Hutchison Vale, was at Man United as a youngster, been at Peterborough and Lincoln. And he's just looked a shrewd addition for Stephen Presley. Came in late in the window. He's been excellent. So that one was just a blatant pull back to stop the counter. And McCowan is over this free kick for Celtic, who trail by 2-0 with 10 minutes left. McCowan sends it in, headed down, edge of the box, and it's forced further away by Samuels. Tierney has it, centre of the pitch. Tierney to McGregor. McGregor Scales to Hatate. Now Scales, Tierney. His pass doesn't go to a Celtic player, and it's cleared down over halfway, and Congreve is going to keep this in. What a shift from Cam Congreve, and he's taken it away from Balikwisha now, and then he's away inside, and he's trying to stand it up to the back post, but he just got a bit too excited and put too much on it. It goes behind for a goal kick. Dundee 2, Celtic 0, and Erna Engels is coming on for Rio Hatate.
We'll let him off with that, I think he's had not a bad game this afternoon. I think the legs would have been a little bit tired as well. But again, just getting Dundee up the park, just getting a little bit of respite. Yeah, the cross should have been a lot better, but I think there's reasons for it.
Scales into Balikwisha to McCowan, edge of the area, crowded out again. Digby, good strength. Celtic win it back. Engels for Scales, for Carter Vickers. Carter Vickers fires the ball into the edge of the box. Then it's Iheanacho, tried to scoop it up towards the back post or maybe curl a shot, but it took a deflection, and John McCracken gathers.
Just not enough quality from Celtic. I mean, that's been the story all season, isn't it? Really in front of goal, looking for that goal scorer, looking for someone that's going to do something special, and particularly in a game like this when it's going to take something special to break this Dundee defence down. Celtic don't look to have that man.
A real lack of invention, isn't there, throughout the game? And then you couple that up with the fact they're not defending well. Does it make for good watching? That's for sure, if you're a Celtic fan. Obviously we spoke about that trip to Tynecastle.
Yeah, well, when you look at Celtic before today, they'd failed to score in half their games this season, 6 out of 12. And they've not really looked like scoring today. And, you know,
it's a real cause for concern. There's no, because there is players with quality in that team.
Yeah.
At this moment, there's just nobody really performing of the levels we have seen over the past few seasons, and there's been guys in this squad today that have been part of that.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. It's failed to score in 5 of their 13 games this season is a Celtic stat, and now it's looking like 6 out of 14, which for them is, well, it's just not good enough really given the standards we would expect. I mean,
I don't think, Tosh, we can sit here and use. Yes, there's friction between the board and fans. Yes, tennis balls come on before the game, but ultimately the players step on the pitch, they have to perform. The easy one is to say yes, there's a few things going on, but in terms of the level Celtic set, it's nowhere near good enough.
Scales to McGregor. Can they find solutions here in the final 6 minutes plus stoppage time? 2 goals down. Victory seems a prospect that is miles away. A draw more likely, but they need a goal quickly. Celtic. Tierney. Balikwisha takes Andre Wright, puts his shoulder in, and the referee is happy with it. Just too strong, Andre Wright, and it goes behind for a goal kick. And Andre Wright, for a player that probably started out as a more attacking player, he's defended well today.
And he's recovered well from whatever injury he had just a few seconds ago. Yeah, I mean, he's a very good player. He's a very good player, isn't he? And defensively, he's got that pace, and he's an intelligent player as well. Yeah. So good in both halves of the park.
Scales underneath that goal kick from McCracken. Astley's challenge falls for Balikwisha, and Dre Wright gets a touch on the ball through for Kenny, out for a throw into Celtic. Kenny trying to get on with it, but he's taking it miles forward of the mark. Throws it back. Tierney will take now. Balikwisha got the assist for Maida's winner against Motherwell, but other than that has yet to catch fire as a Celtic player. Scales into McCowan, and McCowan dispossessed, but Celtic have it back quickly. Scales, McGregor curls it to Balikwisha. So many dark blue jerseys there. McGregor made the run beyond, but once more Dundee managed to get a challenge in to prevent the Celtic captain picking that ball off in the box. And Dundee are going to make another change here. It's going to be Ethan Ingram to come on, and Dre Wright has put in a momentous shift, and he's now going to slowly walk off at Ben's Park, and the referee's asking him to exit quickly.
He's injured again.
It's one of these on and off again ones as he walks to the dugout. 4 minutes left. Celtic trail by 2. Forrest infield to McCowan. McCowan thinks into the box. Engels has made the run, lays it to the edge of the area. Kenny's shot's blocked. McGregor trying to pick up the scraps, but once again the Dundee midfield get a challenge in, and now it's Hay with it on the touchline, and Scales look to pull him back there, and the flag goes up and the yellow card is out, and it will be a Dundee free kick. And just everything going dark blue jerseys way at the moment.
Yeah, but it's sensible play, isn't it, as well? You know, down that right hand side with Ashley Hay, you know, taking on Liam Scales. You know, Liam Scales should be more intelligent in how to deal with it, but I think it's a bit of frustration there as well, and obviously chasing the game too. You're leaving yourself exposed. 2 centre back have been exposed on a couple of occasions in the second half, and you know, he just drags the Dundee player to the ground, gives away a free kick, and again just put it in between defence and goalkeeper and see what happens.
It's Congreve with the left foot, floats it towards the back post, and Celtic this time get a header on it, and Finlay Robertson goes back to Samuels and then into Hamilton. It's McCowan who's intercepted, or now it's Carter Vickers. 2.5 minutes left. Celtic still trailing Dundee by 2-0 at Dens. Carter Vickers carries over halfway. Liam Scales incidentally was booked for that pull back on Hay. couple of minutes ago. Scales, here he is. Balikwisha having a go at Ingram. Stands strong, the Dundee wing back. Infield to Tierney. Then Scales to Tierney. Waiting to deliver the cross, and then goes infield with a pass to McCowan. And again, there's just so many Dundee bodies in there that they managed to get a touch on it. Back out now to McGregor, Carter Vickers, and then Forrest. Sliding challenge from Samuels. Oh, and it's kept it in as well. And now Dundee are on the attack. Samuels gallops forward, lays it out to the left-hand side. Low cross, and it's just beyond Hay, who was in between the posts, waiting for a tap in. And Balikwisha plays it off Congreve for the goal kick. And Samuel's now going down with cramp. They've given everything, Dundee, and they're so close to a historic win, really, in Dundee terms. Stephen Presley heads back towards his dugout. What a performance of coaching it's been from him, the turnaround since the Aberdeen game.
No, absolutely. And I think you can take a lot of criticism, and Stephen Presley's had a lot of criticism. He's not the fans' favourite, but I'll tell you what, if he can continue performances like this, he'll soon become a fan's favourite. He came into the match saying that you have to learn, they've certainly done that, but it's the all-round performance. Everything has been good about the Dundee performance. Simple, straightforward football, and really effective.
Carter Vickers out to Forrest. McCowan now to Carter Vickers. Scales, poor pass for Balikwisha, and it runs through, and McCracken tells his defender Astley just to send that out, which is what he does. We're into the final 30 seconds of the 90 minutes before the visual getting ready to put up its boards, and we'll see how long Dundee have to hang on for. They're so close to a victory. 2-0 in front. Celtic haven't really looked like scoring. Balikwisha gives it to Tierney. Tierney to Balikwisha. Back to Tierney. Space to cross. Digs it out. It's kept it on the touchline, and then Forrest got a touch on it, but it was blocked. And it's out on the far side now. Dundee putting the challenges in, and another one goes in, and Hamilton then picks up the seconds, and then he's miscued his strike, but then he's still going with the dribble, and he's eventually brought down by Carter Vickers. And the Dundee fans here can sense it. They're so close now, so close, and many of them around here won't have ever seen a victory over Celtic at Dens Park, and they're so close now. 5 added minutes, 5 minutes for them to hold on to their 2-goal advantage. They can afford to concede one, but they've given everything. Defensively been outstanding, caused a threat, hit the post in the second half as well, and the free kick goes down the line. Deflects off Samuels that clearance, and Celtic have it at the back. Tierney carries it over halfway. Balikwisha back to goal, and Miles from goal gives it back to Tierney. Then Engels on this left hand side. Engels cuts it back to Balikwisha, edge of the box, dummies the shot, that's clever, and then he floats it to the top corner, and McCracken has just touched it over the top, and he's not been needed as much as you might have thought, John McCracken, but he pulls one out there.
Yeah, it was sensational there, was it, from Balikwisha? Little fake drag shot, then looks to cover it in the corner. Good save from John McCracken, but that's the first thing we've seen from Balikwisha since he came on.
Celtic corner on the far side, in swinger Clark Robertson with a header up into the air, headed back down by Celtic and thumped away by Astley, and it bounces out over on the far side. We've played nearly 2 of the 5 added minutes. Scales controls in the centre circle, gives it to Arne Engels, comes in from the touchline, corner of the area, cross, diving header away by Astley. Tierney has to go and fetch the ball. Tierney to McGregor. Tierney, deep cross, run from Iheanacho, and the header lands just wide of the post, and it's taken Celtic, well, over 100 minutes to create a couple of really good chances.
Yeah, Iheanacho's got a really good opportunity there, a bit more quality. I think he's a little bit frustrated himself that he didn't at least put it between the sticks, and really wicked ball in from Kieran Tierney as well. But Celtic just haven't done enough of that. They haven't had enough ball into the box.
Well, Willie, Celtic's chances that we've seen over the last 10 minutes have actually came from cross balls and taking a shot on. Nothing intricate. Just guys asking a question. And that's been the problem from the get-go for me, hence why up to a certain point in the game they hadn't had a shot target.
Schmeichel rolls it out to Carter Vickers. 2 minutes left of the 5 added. Carter Vickers with a long ball. Balakwich's made the run. Ingram's not managed to deal with it. Free kick is given to Dundee for the push. And the Celtic players fervently disagree. But it's been Dundee's day at Dens. And now just 90 seconds away from a famous victory, a massive victory for under fire Stephen Presley. McCracken will take his time, stride up and clears it forwards. Tierney lets it just drop over his head and it runs for a throw-in down next to the corner flag. Celtic aren't going to retrieve this now. Scales under pressure manages to get it along the byline to Schmeichel, who squeezes it to McGregor and then to Carter Vickers. Carter Vickers surges up to halfway, but Finlay Robertson stops him going any further. Carter Vickers, Scales to Balakwicha. Balakwicha fouled there by Ingram. Be a Celtic free kick. We're into the final 30 seconds. Dundee so close.
Yeah, it's been quite a performance from him, isn't it? Under fire, Stephen Presley. I don't think you'll see that headline tomorrow in the papers. He's drilled this team magnificently well. It's been a top quality performance.
Engels sends the free kick in. Forrest round the back. Dundee header away. It's come off a Celtic head, in fact, and it's a goal kick. And that might be the last act of this game at Dens. And Cameron Congreve is named man of the match here at Dens. Quite right too. Brilliant individual performance from him. As every Dundee player to a man have been excellent. McCracken with a goal kick. Dundee's Celtic torment is over. 46 joyless games against the green and white side of Glasgow, and finally at the 47th attempt they've done it. Stephen Presley has inspired his side to the most unlikely of victories. 2001, the last time Dundee beat Celtic. 1988, the last time they did it here in front of their own at Dens Park. And it has been a magnificent performance from every Dundee player to recover from the thumping at Pittodrie, to turn it round in the international break, to register the most sensational victory of the Scottish Premiership season so far. The goals game in the first half, Clark Robertson's header from a corner, then an own goal from Carter Vickers after more good work from Congreve and Wesley in the build-up. And Celtic just didn't have enough in response. They threatened, yes, there were chances, but not nearly as many as you would expect. They went almost an hour without an effort on target, and now the players troop for the tunnel. Some have left the away end, some have stayed to vent their fury, and they're going to go in to that massive game at Tynecastle next Sunday lunchtime, 5 points behind unbeaten Hearts, and with all sorts of questions swirling about this Celtic team, the protests that keep going off the pitch, and the dark moods over the club this season. But this is Dundee's day at Dens. They have delivered a sensational performance, and it has finished in the Premiership. Dundee 2, Celtic 0.
Scottish football lives here.
This is Sports Sound.
That is a beautiful finish.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
That is massive.
Modern life is full of wee annoying things, like posh shoppers.
Locate the poshest looking woman in there, right? And say this, excuse me, do you work here? She will lose her mind.
That's where Breaking the News comes in. We're here to help you make sense of the world we live in, making you feel super.
This summer, he's back. It's Oor Wooly.
Breaking the News, Friday from 1:30 on BBC Radio Scotland and Sounds.
Where you are listening to Sports Sound this Sunday afternoon with Liam McLeod here. A remarkable scoreline, full-time scoreline at Dens Park as Dundee beat the champions Celtic. A little bit to spare in the end, 2-0. Quite incredible performance from them to get that one over the line. Both goals, as Thomas was saying, coming in the first half. Fabian Caballero's name will never be forgotten by Dundee supporters, but we can finally rip up the statistic of the last time Dundee managed to get the better of Celtic. It was 8,987 days ago when Caballero scored twice in the first half and Dundee beat Martin O'Neill's Celtic under Ivano Benetti, and they also had to deal with a red card flashed at Zurab Kizanishvili in the first half of that game as well. It shows you the resilience they needed to produce on that occasion on the 13th of May 2001. You can rip that one up. You can rip up the home one as well, because 13,540 days on from Tommy Coyne's winner for Dundee against Celtic at Dens Park, Dundee have finally got the better of Celtic on their own patch as well. 37 years and 26 days on from that. So plenty of reaction to come, and I think supporters heading to the cars, heading home, those who are listening or watching at home will be very interested to hear what both Stephen Presley and perhaps in particular Brendan Rodgers have to say in the wake of that one. Clark Robertson's header, a Carter Vickers own goal, did the job. John McCracken had 2 saves to make in the second half, but really, the second one of those from Balakwisha, the game was gone by that point. It was in stoppage time. Celtic just didn't threaten. 2 shots on target in the match, which just isn't good enough for them. I think it ended up being 3 shots, maybe a trundler towards the end there. But of the 23 shots they managed to get away, only 3 of them hit target. McCracken with a couple of saves there. The best one was that Balakwisha one at the end. But congratulations to Dundee. That is a result that takes them, and let's remember, they could have been bottom today. Any kind of defeat would have put them bottom of the table this afternoon. They have climbed above Aberdeen and Motherwell onto the 9-point mark and into 9th place, albeit they have played a game more than both Motherwell and Aberdeen, having brought forward that match against Livingston, which they eventually won. That was very late in the day. This is just their second league win of the season, Dundee, and their only other one came by virtue of that extremely late penalty against Livingston that saw them over the line in that one. They were much more comfortable this afternoon. Scott Allen and Willie Miller are still with us at Dens. We'll let the guys just take a break and try and digest what they have watched. But I've been joined in the studio here in Glasgow, and we're with you until 5 o'clock on Sports Sound. We've got plenty of time to get through everything from the Rangers managerial position to high-flying Hearts, who are now 5 points clear at the top of the Premiership, having played the same number of games as Celtic, with an opportunity next Sunday to go 8 points clear of the defending champions. And there is, depending on the scores, results and the subsequent games after that, because Celtic are in League Cup semi-final action in a couple of weekends' time, there is a chance for Hearts. If they win their match in the midweek card, assuming Celtic beat Falkirk at home, but you never know, John McGlynn might have other ideas, Hearts could have a chance to go 11 clear of Celtic before they play in the league again after that midweek card. That's for the future. For the now, I've got Stephen Craigan and Stephen Thompson, international Illuminati, with me in the studio here in Glasgow. Was that you snorting there, Stephen? What was all that about?
I've never been called that before. You should get yourself on countdown. That was some incredible maths there. Carol Vorderman down there.
I just had the 2 respective dates in front of me and I calculated the days.
Sure you did.
So there you go. Yeah. Good to have you with me, guys. How are we doing? Okay. It was. Yes. I mean, that is a quite astonishing scoreline. Stephen Presley told us before the match. I'm not sure if you heard his pre-match interview, Stephen Craigan. He said we're going to have to be difficult to play against, and we're going to have to defend properly if we're going to get anything out of this game. My goodness, they defended properly today.
Well, the fact that they had 17.8% possession tells you all those things had to come to fruition. You had to be optimum concentration levels, they had to be diligent, they had to be disciplined, they had to suffer, they had to chase the ball, they had to do the hard yards, but they also had to be ruthless at the top end of the pitch when the chances presented themselves to them. So I thought first half in particular, Cameron Congreve on the right hand side, he was the one player that had the spark. You always need someone who can carry a little bit of a threat, because if you get yourself ahead in the game against Celtic, they're always going to dominate the ball even more. They're going to be more aggressive in their approach. They're going to pin you back. So as much as Dundee had to defend and they had to stand on the edge of their box and they had to head it and clear it and kick it and all the things you've got to do when you're an underdog and you have to cause an upset, Celtic will look at their performance and think, did we have enough creativity? Did we have the cutting edge? Did we have the edge to our player or the spark to make something happen? And I have to say it looked flat and lifeless for long spells in the game. And I understand the fans are singing sack the board at the end of the game, but somewhere along the line the responsibility has to flip onto the players on the pitch. It's as if they're getting overlooked. They're not getting the free run because clearly the fans aren't happy, but that was a way below par performance. And you said it, ahead of the game, Dundee are bottom of the table. This is not a team who are sitting second in the table and flying and picking up good. This was a team who went to Aberdeen 2 weeks ago, lost 4-0, it could have been more, and looked so far off the game, so far out of sorts. And I thought to myself, if Celtic turn up and produce anything anywhere near their best today, this could be as high a scoring game as we'll get in the Premiership this season. But it's amazing how football can always throw little upsets up. Dundee started the game really aggressively. They went after the game. But Stephen Presley was right. They would have had to have done all the things they could control. The things you can control is how you defend, how you run, how you work, how you concentrate. That's what you can control. Celtic weren't at their best. And when you get that balance there, when you get that kind of meeting up together, you've got a chance of causing an upset, and Dundee absolutely done it. And I'm not saying deserved their victory, but for their effort and their energy and their desire. I think Scott Allen touched on, I was listening to coming in the car, you can be competitive in Scottish football if you do the basics very, very well. Dundee done them terrifically well today.
It's so often you can do the basics very well and still lose to Celtic. You know, that's a fact. Highlights of this, incidentally, on Sports Scene tonight, the Dens Park highlights, plus I look back at yesterday's action at 7:15 on the BBC Scotland channel. It's certainly a scoreline that's going to make headlines. Most of them will be about Celtic, Stephen Thompson. That's just the nature of it in this country. But for Dundee, and for Stephen Presley in particular, this is seismic.
Massive. I mean, it's not been the start to this season that I think Stephen Presley wanted. He wasn't universally accepted by the Dundee supporters coming to the club. He's had to work hard. Obviously, the last result up at Aberdeen that Craggs is talking about there was really, really disappointing. He's had a couple of weeks with international break to work on things, and he's got it spot on today. Absolutely spot on. And you know, I think all the credit goes to Dundee. Yes, you can talk about Celtic and them being poor, and the fact that creatively they're miles away from any Celtic team we've watched in the last 3-4 years. Miles away in terms of opportunities, and in terms of actually the players that they've got on the pitch. They've somehow managed to regress and have a weaker team and squad than they did last year, and that's where a lot of the frustration has come from, or not even just last year, you know, for a number of years. That's where the frustrations come from for the supporters, clearly making their thoughts clear at the start of the game, throwing all the balls onto the pitch, the singing they've sacked the board, etc, etc. They don't feel that the club or the owners of the club or the board have met their ambitions, and you can see why. But Craggs is also right to point out these are international players. These are players of a high pedigree that should be putting in better performances than they are.
I was going to say, because I get that, and at Champions League level Celtic have got to a position where they've not been good enough to qualify for that tournament, and they've got 1 point out of 6 in the Europa League, so that's been a bit of a struggle. But today they're going up against a Dundee team that's been struggling. They're going up against a Dundee team that has players who have been brought in from Cambridge United, from from Lincoln City, from Barrow. Congreve, who's come in, he's come on loan from Swansea, which is fair enough. I mean, they should still have enough to get past Dundee.
Yeah, they should, yeah. But let's talk about Dundee's...
You have to earn it.
Well, that's true.
Of course, you got to earn. You don't just say, well, they're from.
Is there an attitude problem there right now?
I wouldn't say it's attitude. There's a psychological problem.
It feels like it's got an end of days feel to it, and that's worrying from a Celtic point of view, given it's only October.
Do you know what goes on in the background with regards to the board, with regards to supporters? People think players are immune to all this and that they just turn up and play. That's clearly affecting them as well. The negativity that goes around affects players on the pitch. Supporters don't see that. They don't think the players should feel that way. They should just turn up and be at their best every single week. But there seems to be a cloud hanging over the club. It has been for a number of months now. And I think the players are looking at that, putting a bit of fear into them. Players not showing their best. There's no doubt Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, they're better in what they've shown today and they're better in what they've shown throughout this season. So there's clearly some sort of confidence problem, belief problem, or whether it's just the noise around the outside is impacting them as a group because they are not anywhere near their best. They're not reaching anywhere near their levels, individually or collectively. And that's a real worry. The fall-off and the drop-off has been alarming, Liam, of where they were at stages last season to where they were at stages this season. I think that's 14 games today. They've scored 22 goals, I said, and I think they scored 41 after 14 last season. So there's an edge missing all over the pitch, and it's looking for leadership, responsibility, accountability, someone to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and make something happen, and no one is doing that at this moment in time. Callum McGregor's been the go-to man for so long, and maybe he's just gone through a little spell where he's not at his best. He's maybe not where he wants to be mentally, physically, wherever it may be. He's not reaching the levels and no one else around him is carrying the can.
But they've not had to deal
fight.
with adversity at all, looking over the last however many years. They've not had a spell where they've been down in the dumps and had to grind and pick themselves up. This is the first time. And when you're playing as a footballer and you're a team that's winning all the time, it's easy and it becomes easy and you're confident. You go onto the pitch with no thoughts other than we're going to win this game. Wee seeds of doubt are starting to pop in. Negativity, it spreads like wildfire.
Well, you remember it in the COVID season, 2021, when they were going for 10 in a row. That's the only time you can really compare what's going on now to any period during this period of what has generally been huge success for Celtic.
It's the first time they've been pushed, Tom, isn't it? Not pushed, but it's the first time there's been someone. Aberdeen were last year, but Celtic were still rampant and dominant. They were winning games as well, and they were scoring lots of goals. There was always a belief, but it feels this year with a little bit of pressure and Hearts maybe doing well, and it's like, this is
and also you would look to match winners for you on the pitch. You know, when things aren't maybe going well or it's a tight game, people would pop up over the last however many seasons. Quality players with individual brilliance win you the game. That's not happening. That's not happening just now, and I don't think they've got that quality of player anymore at the club. But the players who you would look to pick things and drive things aren't doing it. So it's a bit of a mess.
I'm going to bring Scott and Willie back in a moment, but firstly to you, Stephen Craigan. I've just been made aware of this statistic. Celtic have now failed to win 13 of their last 29 games since going out of the Champions League in February, when they put in a brilliant performance and were denied the chance of going into extra time in that knockout playoff match against Bayern. That's a 55%
more maths, Liam, more maths.
No, someone's helped me out with this.
But that's unheard of. For a section of Celtic supporters of a certain age, that is completely unheard of. But likewise, the quadruple treble is unheard of for the older generation. So there's a balance in between. There's a generation of Celtic fans aren't used to losing many games at all. So to lose almost 50% or not, what you said, 13 of 29, almost 50% of your games is unheard of for a Celtic supporter and for a Celtic team. There was a little drop off last season, there was no doubt, but they still won a few games by 4 and by 5. And that almost just keeps the momentum going. The Scottish Cup final last season against Aberdeen was the one where people thought, this team look as if they're dead on their feet and they probably need refreshed over the summer just to try and brighten things up. That didn't happen, and that negativity right from the Scottish Cup semi-final fallout the whole way through the summer, the transfer window, the board, everything that went on, Brendan speaking to it just all seems to have gathered momentum within the playing squad, not just the staff or the supporters, the playing squad as well, and that's a reflection on today's performance.
Willie Miller, just when you think about that Scottish Cup final, and it was a similar situation today, I guess, is that when Celtic were making their changes at Hampden, it seemed to weaken them, and today from the bench they just didn't have enough. I mean, they're still having to rely on James Forrest, his most decorated player in the club's history, but he's 34 now. Johnny Kenny has been at the club for a number of years. He's still in the periphery of things, but Maida was out today. but he's their go-to striker from the bench to try and launch that salvage mission today. There's so many issues within that squad right now.
Well, they come here to Dundee, and it looks, and a lot of the games you watch Celtic, it looks as though they feel that they've got the game won before a ball is kicked. And in the first 10-15 minutes of this game, it was two completely different styles of football. Celtic looked lacking in desire and energy, and Dundee were full of it. It was simple football. It was almost a throwback to when the goalkeeper kicked the ball long. Do you remember that, guys? Do you remember when the goalkeeper used to kick the ball long? Well, that's what McCracken did today. There was no sign of any of the wing back or the three centre backs going back and getting the ball off of the goalkeeper to try and build it up. No. Just launch it, and he launches it to what? 30-35 yards out from the Celtic goal. So right away they're on the front foot. And they were always on the front foot. Even when they were defending, you felt whenever it broke down, they had energy. Like Hamilton would pick the ball up and just run at the Celtic defence, which was all over the place. There was, so much room to progress into. It was untrue. Congreve was absolutely outstanding. The energy that he showed. Wesley as well. The three centre backs were fabulous. But it was. Stephen Presley's obviously worked extremely hard in this shape and the mindset as well, because the shape was brilliant, the back five, the two, but they always had a threat going forward. They had the three, they had Wesley, Congreve and Simon Murray were always wanting to get forward, and they created a number of chances in the first half as well. Could have actually been more than two. As for Celtic, it's just dreadful, just lacking in any inspiration whatsoever, any energy. They keep doing the same thing. And I'll tell you what, they'll keep getting the same results if they keep playing like this, because there's no inspiration, there's no quality in front of goal, there's no creativity, and it's all little passes that don't hurt anybody at all. And in particular this afternoon, the way Dundee were set up, they just really didn't hurt. They didn't ask enough questions. Set pieces for were poor, set pieces against were poor as well. Just a dreadful performance from Celtic, and I don't want to go on too much about Celtic because it was a wonderful performance from Dundee, a simple, old-fashioned performance that got a wonderful result.
It did. Clark Robertson with his first ever goal in the Scottish top flight opened the scoring. A Carter Vickers OG, much to ponder for Brendan Rodgers, much to enjoy for Stephen Presley, the Dundee managers with Thomas.
Stephen, we spoke before the game about the kind of history of being against you and form as well, but you sure turned that around. You must be immensely proud of your players.
Proud's the word. We came into the game, we'd worked exceptionally hard over the last couple of weeks. Going into the international break on the Aberdeen result, there was a lot of suffering. It was difficult, but we reacted in the best possible manner, and like you said, I couldn't be prouder of the group of players today, because you can work on certain aspects, but the execution of it is down to players. You need the players, and I thought to a man they were brilliant today.
Yeah, you said you obviously worked on a lot of things during the international break. What were those key things that allowed you to lay the platform for that result today?
One of the things is that we need to be more aggressive as a team. Aggressive in our duels, winning more duels, and I thought we did that to a man today. And also I think we asked more questions of Celtic today than we have in previous games. We crossed more, we countered with real intent today. So when you see that coming together, you're exceptionally proud. But as I've said, playing against a Brendan Rodgers Celtic team, you need an element of luck. We had luck on our side today, luck and resilience, and thankfully we took our moments.
I know managers don't always want to single players out after a team performance, because you need a team performance to get a result like that, but I thought Cam Congreve was absolutely outstanding, obviously involved in both goals. What did you make of his performance?
Like you said, an outstanding performance from a young player. He's come in, he's settled into the group extremely well. We were really delighted to get him here. He's a player that can make the difference, and he certainly made the difference today.
And we talked about giving the fans a bit of hope. You've certainly done that. Is this the kind of result that can really kick-start a season for you? You've set a standard now in terms of that aggression that you talked about.
Well, I don't know about that. It's a challenge playing for Dundee. I said that to the players. I've reeled off loads of stats that tell you that. But we have to enjoy the win today. That's the first thing that we must do. But I think for where we are, for the transition of the club from last year's team to this year's team, I think survival for us would be an achievement. Many of the pundits have tipped us for relegation, and I understand why. So, it's about us trying to deliver and us taking small steps, not large steps. And today was a small step in the right direction.
And what does it just finally mean to you personally? Because I know you've been on the back foot at times in this job, and football management is not an easy gig. So what does this sort of result mean for you?
Nothing other than, you continue to work hard, continue to strive to be better. Football management's not easy. I've spoken a number of times about, do I enjoy the job? At times, not really. It's a really challenging job, but the one comfort that I have is that I've got a terrific group of players in there, a group of players that come in every day to get better, and that gets me out of my bed in the morning.
Thanks, Stephen. Enjoy that. Cheers.
Thank you.
There you go, Stephen Presley, absolutely delighted, and understandably so, with his team's 2-0 victory over Celtic. Just that, such a long time since Dundee tasted victory over Celtic, and they've managed to do so today. So a special moment for those Dundee supporters, and indeed for Stephen Presley. Think of the difficult start he had, losing to Airdrieonians and Alloa in the League Cup groups. Just the one league with victory going into that match, and it takes them up to 9th in the table, as I said. And there was any kind of defeat, even a 1-0 defeat today would have taken them to the bottom below Livingston. So great result for Dundee. I was just having a look back there because I'm obviously, with what Hearts are doing just now, there's parallels to be drawn with what was going on exactly 20 years ago when George Burley was the manager. And it was this weekend, and we will get into Hearts, but it was this weekend 20 years ago that George Burley was sacked, surprisingly, by Vladimir Romanov at Hearts. John McGlynn took the team that day. It was announced on the day they had a game at home to Dunfermline. Stephen Presley was sent off playing for Hearts that day. It didn't matter. They won the match 2-0. John McGlynn took the side as they continued at that point their unbeaten start to the league season. They had a few more matches put away by this point, but they go just looking back at what Hearts were doing 20 years ago and what they are threatening to do again this season, only under Derek McInnes. They'll be hoping to prolong it because things kind of went eventually a little bit south for Hearts, even though they finished in the top 2 that season. They lead the Premiership by 5 points, having played the same number of matches now as the defending champions Celtic. A wonderful position for Derek McInnes to be in, and we'll get into their win at Kilmarnock last night. I know Stephen Craigan was at that match, and obviously Tomo was looking after the Sports Scene highlights last night, so was absolutely across that game too. But Scott Allen with us at Dens, having watched that and having now listened to Stephen Presley's take on the game. I think you get the sense there that the major emotion that Stephen Presley has just now is one of pride, Scott, after that performance from his players who had to react from a bit of a toweling last time out.
Yeah, and rightly so. I think his players gave him everything to a man, as he spoke about. I think the key word, as he spoke about, was aggression, and from the get-go, that's what they done. They made it really difficult for Celtic, and I thought that midfield battle was going to be key in terms of second balls. They most certainly did land on a hell of a lot more second balls than Celtic did. And when you have that style of play and you make it difficult for a team like Celtic.
Scott, sorry, I'm going to get back to you because Brendan Rodgers is by all accounts waiting. We will get back to you so you can finish off. Apologies for that, but everyone, I'm sure, not just the Celtic fans, eager to hear what the Celtic manager has to make of that performance. Brendan Rodgers with Thomas.
Brendan, just get your thoughts. Obviously a disappointing afternoon for you, but your thoughts on the performance.
Well, I think result and performance was bitterly disappointing. Give credit to Dundee, they defended very well when they got in front. I think all the statistics in the game, we dominated the ball, but I didn't feel that we did enough with it. We had some opportunities in the first half, got into some good areas. Second half likewise, but we've seen it before really in a number of games this season. I think it's 6 games we haven't scored in, so we're just lacking that bit of finesse and that bit of quality in the final third of the pitch. And if you can't break that down against teams that are low, then you're maybe going to suffer. So yeah, it was a disappointing day for us.
Did Dundee surprise you at all with their intensity? They came out of the blocks with a lot of aggression. I don't know if the players were surprised. Obviously there was a protest at the start. I don't know if that disrupted things or disrupted the momentum in terms of the start you would have liked to make.
Yeah, no, nothing surprises. I think we see the goalkeeper kicks it a long way, so you got to travel with the ball and you got to win your first balls, second balls, and so nothing really surprises. And of course, when you get 1-0 up, and then in particular 2-0, you know that they're going to be resolute and hard to beat, and I think you give credit to the players for that. But we as a Celtic team, we have to show more than that. We have to show more drive, more quality in the final third of the pitch to break that down, and that was the frustration of today.
Why do you think that was lacking, and it's been lacking in a few games this season, just not scoring the goals that you did last season?
Yeah, but listen, I think it's pretty clear why, but it's also something that I have to try and fix. We have different profile of players, but ultimately we have to be better. It's the responsibility of everyone. Whether it's centre halves, full backs, midfield players, strikers, to score goals. We have enough pressure. We create enough opportunities from set pieces, and also we have enough of the ball in open play. But we have to have that more craft and more cleverness in order to break teams down. And today we get into good areas, but we're not really battering the door down, and that's the big disappointment.
Obviously the frustration of the summer is kind of hanging over into the season, which must be a frustration for you. How much do you think it does affect the players? I'll go back to the protesters. I guess you'll understand fans have a right to protest and want to protest, but does the way they did it here today help the team really?
Well, I think we have to focus on, listen, we had 90 odd minutes after that to be better. The protest has nothing to do with defending the corner or giving the ball away and losing a goal on the counter-attack. That's nothing to do with the protest. We have to be better, and ultimately we have to look on the pitch first and foremost.
And you said you need to find solutions. Or do you feel you have the solutions at this point in the squad to get more out of things in an attacking sense? Are the solutions in the building for you, or are they clear to you?
Well, we're trying to find them. I think that's the key thing, and what we have in the building is what we have through until January. But like I say, I said before the game, it's a real challenge for us in all the games that we have, and we have to stand up to that challenge. And like I said, it's my responsibility to try and find that.
Just finally, obviously, you've got a big game on Thursday night in Europa League, but a massive game against Hearts at Tynecastle on Sunday. Started the season so well. You're 5 points behind. I know it's very early, but it kind of ramps up the pressure on the team ahead of that game.
Yeah. But I think for us, it's always the next game, and now we have to recover and get ready to put in a better performance and result against Sturm Graz. So that's the challenge.
Thanks, Brendan. Commiserations.
Thanks. Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, two massive matches for Celtic when you consider just the 1 point out of 6 in the Europa League so far. The draw in Belgrade, followed by the defeat to Braga, Graz to come on Thursday, and then the trip to Tynecastle. My goodness, what a huge few days that actually is in Celtic's season. A few things Brendan Rodgers said there. He gave credit to Dundee to start with. He said his team didn't do enough with the ball. He says he's seen it before this season. He highlighted the fact that they fired blanks in 6 games already this season. They fired blanks in 4 games in the entirety of last season. So that's a huge concern for them. They've also scored half the number of goals that they'd scored by this stage last term. He said they had to show more drive and quality, which they didn't. He then said it's obvious why this is happening. He kind of alluding there, Scott Allen, who was cut off in his prime there as he was waxing lyrical about Dundee's performance, but important to acknowledge what Brendan Rodgers has said there. But he's talking about it's obvious why this is happening. He's clearly alluding to the fact that he's not got the quality in the squad that he thinks is going to be necessary to go forward and dominate the way that he has done in his time as Celtic manager over his 2 spells in the club, generally speaking, over the course of the last 14 years.
Yeah, and I think he uses the word obvious because we're all watching the performances and can see that's where the real struggles are. At the same time, for me, I don't think they're defending well. I think in the moments where they are asked to defend well, you can speak about how much of the ball you had. So that percentage of ball that Dundee had, which is nowhere near Celtic's, when they had to defend, which was in whether it was a set piece, a throw in, they didn't defend well enough. So both ends of the park, it just isn't of the level that Brendan Rodgers and I think the Celtic fans expect at this moment in time. But I do think he fronts up well in terms of he has to find the solutions. He did also touch on the fact that he's trying to find them within the building. At this moment in time, it's very hard to see. I think the fact that there's...
What was he said? We have what we have.
We have what we have, yes. I think at the same time, the fact that no one can nail down that position on the right-hand side, and there's 3 players there who have spent money on, and they can't be consistent, they haven't shown the performances, that would be a real worry in terms of the sort of recruitment that you have brought in for that position, because Celtic, when it comes down to breaking down a low block, they have to have the front free firing and being on the same wavelength. You can't see that. We definitely didn't see it in a game like today. He spoke about obviously travelling with the ball from the kick-outs. Like, these players are experienced. They should know that after the second time that John McCracken does that this game's going to be about might win the first contact, might lose the first contact, but we're going to make sure we're on the next one. And they just didn't do that enough today, and that allowed Dundee obviously to get momentum in the game. It got the fans behind them. So me and Willie were speaking about in terms of styles of play. Dundee just done, as Willie said, the simple things. Aggressive, second balls, ask question. When they had the chances to put Celtic under pressure, they did, and that's how they came away from the game. And to come away with a clean sheet against Celtic, especially off the back of the run that Dundee have been on, it's an outstanding achievement from Stephen Presley and his players, and they'll take huge belief for it. But where Celtic are at this moment in time, you speak about the games coming up for them, Sturm Graz and then that Tynecastle away, they have to find solutions, and find solutions very quick, because for me, from what I seen of Hearts last night, it looks to me that there's absolutely going to be a title race this year.
With Hearts very much involved in that, quite clearly, and a chance for them to move 8 clear next week. Willie, what did you think of what the two managers said? Both fair summations?
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers was pretty accurate, and his use of words is always interesting to listen to, and you know exactly what he's saying, that the recruitment hasn't been good enough and he's not been backed well enough. I think that's a problem with Celtic just now. It's not a club that's moving together. Still not sure about Brendan's future. The boardroom seem reluctant to spend the funds that they've got as well, and the manager is definitely not happy, and I think you've got to try to sort the manager situation out firstly, and then look at the next transfer window and be more supportive of the manager. I know there's a lot of players that's been brought in, but the ones on show today didn't really show the quality that was required. I thought he spoke about the quality, in particular, and it was sadly lacking. But take nothing away from this performance from Dundee. It was a magnificent performance from Dundee. Stephen Presley proud, absolutely proud. They mentioned lucky. I don't think he was lucky. It was a great performance.
Willie, I'm not sure if Clark Robertson was a youngster at Aberdeen when you were.
Oh, he was.
Yes, he's down there chatting with Thomas Duncan now. Let's hear from him, the man who gave Dundee the lead and set them on their way to their 2-0 victory over Celtic.
Clark, congratulations. That's a massive win. Just sum it up from your point of view.
Yeah, it feels great, obviously. It's been a long time since any Dundee team beat Celtic here, and we were reminded of that during the week by the gaffer, and it just shows you how difficult it is to beat Celtic, and you've got to go do so much things right in the game. I thought we'd deliver the game plan excellently, and I thought we were thoroughly deserving of the win, and I'm just delighted to get on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. The manager kind of used that, because it could maybe go both ways. You're like, oh, we're up against it here. I think it's 46 games Dundee hadn't beaten Celtic in, but you kind of used it as inspiration. Yeah,
I think obviously off the back of a disappointing result at Aberdeen, we've got to show a lot of belief, and played with no fear today, really. And like I said, we worked on the last 2 weeks during international bit of a game plan to try and stop Celtic, but also cause a problem going the other way. And I thought we were very good. Yeah.
Talk us through your goal then. It's a great ball in, but it's a good header as well.
It's a great ball in, obviously, from Carey. And as soon as I got the run on Carter Vickers, I just knew I was getting there, and just judged the flight of the ball and just guided it in. Seen it hit the back of the net, I was buzzing.
And the other end of the game, I suppose
in any game, but particularly when you go a goal up and then 2 goals up against Celtic, they're going to try and bring a lot at the other end. But defensively, you stood up with some brilliant crucial blocks in there from all the guys.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to defend for periods of the game against Celtic and defend your box well, and I thought we did that. I think everyone defended well as a team, and it's easy to get complacent when you're 2-0 up at half time, and the gaffer reminded us just to stay calm and compact in our shape, and just wait for opportunities to hit them on the break. And I thought we were just well worthy of the win today. Yeah.
Talk to me about the turnaround since the Aberdeen game, because obviously that was a real sore one where I guess you maybe just didn't compete in the way that you would have liked. But what was the messages that you were getting during the international break and what you were working on? Because that's like some turnaround in terms of the aggression you showed.
I think against Aberdeen we watched the game back, and we weren't winning enough in duels, first and second balls, falling out tackles, and just not being aggressive enough all over the pitch. And I think that was one area that over the last 2 weeks we've worked on, and you see it out there today how aggressive we were up against the ball and just putting it on Celtic's back line and try to get us out of the pitch. And I thought Sai led the line well, and then Ash obviously coming on to see the game out, and just some effort from the boys, and just pleased we got the win. Yeah.
And finally, that's got to be the template now going forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's got to be us now. We've got a tough run coming up, and that was the start of it, and we've obviously got 3 points. Just need to build on that. Still a new group, 9 games into a season. We've just got to keep building that, and we've got to take so much belief from that going forward into these next 3 games before international break. Yeah.
Thanks, Clark. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Cheers.
Thank you.
Clark Robertson there with his first ever Scottish top flight goal today. He's obviously not someone who scores too many. Former Aberdeen player, came through the academy there before heading to Blackpool a decade ago. Then there were spells at Rotherham, Portsmouth, and he was out at Ashdod in Israel as well before Dundee took him to Dens last summer. Former Scotland under-21 international, but he is set Dundee on their way to victory today. And talking about the games before the international break, and we were highlighting these earlier, Falkirk and Hearts away before they host Rangers. Willie, we were just talking about Clark Robertson there. You had him as a youngster. It was a mature performance from him, but also, I mean, the Dundee players just threw themselves in front of absolutely everything today.
Yeah, they did. They defended. Yeah, they defended deeply at times, but when the ball was then played forward, or they had the opportunity to hit in the counter, the back 5 came out really quickly. He played a huge part in it, but the other 2 as well, Graham and Astley, were superb too. And McCracken with the 2 saves as well. The second one in particular, he touched over the bar. But you're going to have to defend against Celtic because they're a top quality side, even although they're playing below par just now. They were well organised, they were disciplined. The threat, it's interesting, the threat going forward is always difficult when, I think anyway, watching teams when they play that low block, it's always difficult when they counter to get enough men forward. But it worked a treat for them. They were powerful runners that Stephen Presley had in the midfield to get them up the park, ball carriers that got them up the park. So it wasn't just the long kick out from McCracken. It's whenever they hit in the counter, they had the strength and the energy and the direction to carry the ball forward to cause Celtic loads of problems. I mean, as I said, they had more chances than the 2 goals that they scored. It could have been okay. Celtic they were a little bit unlucky, but where the ball just didn't fall for them. But clear-cut chances were hard to view as far as Celtic was concerned. I mean, it was the Joe Wesley miss in the first few minutes of the game when it was drilled across the face of the goal. It should have been a goal, and there's no doubt about that. So I think from Dundee point of view, I think from a Clark Robertson point of view, superb defensive performance. Absolutely, he says he deserved the win. I totally agree with him. It was back to the wall at time, but it was brave defending that got them through it. And of course he got the 2 goals as well, so a fantastic afternoon for him and the rest of the team. And obviously Stephen Presley just takes a little bit of pressure off, doesn't it?
It does that. The pressure on the Celtic board in particular remains, though. In the English Premier League this afternoon, Morgan Rogers has just scored a wonderful goal to level matters against Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs are the hosts of that one. Rodrigo Bentancur had given them the lead on 5 minutes, but Rogers with a brilliant finish from outside the box means it is Spurs 1, Aston Villa 1. A couple of really attractive fixtures actually in the English top flight today, with Liverpool hosting Manchester United in the 4:30 kick-off. In the SWPL 1 this afternoon, getting into the latter stages of a couple of the matches, full card, 5 games, including the battle of the top 2 as Celtic host Glasgow City in Hamilton. 4:10 kick-offs live on BBC Alapa. We'll go live there a little later in the programme. We are with you till 5 o'clock here on BBC Radio Scotland this afternoon. But as far as the games that are underway in the SWPL, just about 7 or 8 minutes left. Aberdeen 0, Hearts 5. They are goal scorers. Johns with a couple. Hutchison scored one against our former team, Andrews, and a penalty from Adam Olukin has made it 5-0 to Hearts. It's Partick Thistle 0, Montrose 2. That's also into the latter stages. The bottom side, Hamilton Academical trail Rangers 5-0 after 38 minutes. Ceballo, Wilkinson with a couple. Berry, Macaulay with the goals for Rangers. Motherwell Hibs kicks off at 4, and as I said, Celtic Glasgow City is a 4:10 kick-off. But we're just we've got the guys at Dens just for another 10 minutes or so. Stephen Thompson and Stephen Craigan with me in the studio. Just a bit of reaction, Stephen Craigan, firstly, to what Brendan Rodgers had to say in the wake of that one. I mean, I said earlier, it's got end of days feel to it. It's the final year of Rodgers' contract. We know that. It feels as though it's more kind of edging towards the end of the season rather than the first quarter of it, where Celtic are so off it right now.
Well, we spoke after the game about the flatness of the squad. I think you can sense there's a bit of flatness about Brendan Rodgers because he expects so much more as a Celtic manager. He wants so much more from his team. He leaves you with so many... You have to read between the lines to try and think what Brendan's meaning. I think credit to him, he doesn't dig his players out. He doesn't lay it on them. He's not having to go at the board. He leaves his supporters alone, but he says enough to get you thinking about how he sees the situation. Clearly he's not happy with the quality that he has. After the 2 successful seasons he's had so far, to get to this level and things are dropping a little bit, and he says he has to find the solutions. The players have to play their part. Him finding the solutions is working hard in training and allowing the players to work in partnerships and work in tandem with each other and try and give them that freedom within training so they can then take it onto the playing field. That's clearly not happening. We don't see what goes on behind the scenes with regards to training and players, but when you've got key players, I said it right at the start, when you've got key players who are not reaching the levels that they have done previously, when the team are not playing with the same intensity, the same creativity, there's only so much you can do as a manager. There's only so many times you can rotate and you can work and you can try and find that partnership, you can try and find that relationship. There has to be an ownership and a responsibility on the players themselves to want to step out of their comfort zone, to try and clear their head from all the negativity or lack of confidence that's going about. They have to find that themselves. As a manager, you can only take them so far. As a coach, you can take them so far. You can do so much. You can give them information. The accountability has to fall amongst the players. And I just think the players at this moment in time are way below par for one reason or another. You know, we're trying to find reasons for it with the negativity of the fans, the transfer window, going out of the Champions League. We're trying to make excuses for them. But at some stage, they have to take ownership of their own game and their own lives and their own career and make things happen, because clearly what Brendan is saying is not good enough.
And it's gone back into last season, as we were saying there, that 55% winning record since February. They face a massive week here, Stephen, don't they?
Oh, aye.
When you look at the games, I mean, in Europe, if they've got any designs on qualifying for the knockout stages of the Europa League, they've got to look at winning this game at home to the Austrian Sturm Graz on Thursday, before they go to Tynecastle high noon next Sunday.
In any other period of time going into this Sturm Graz game, you would fancy Celtic strongly. It's not, not that difficult an opponent, especially at home.
Well, you watched them out there, didn't you, when they played Rangers last time out?
Yeah, I mean, they're an okay side, but in terms of European football, having watched it for the last however many years, they're certainly not a force. So you'd expect Celtic to win that game, as I said, in any other kind of season, if you like. But going into it, you're not going into it with the same confidence that Celtic will be able to get a result as you normally would. Off the back of that, it's into the game of the season so far, without a doubt, as they travel to Tynecastle. Hearts playing with so much confidence. That game is absolutely massive. I mean, psychologically, just now, even if for Hearts players and for Derek McInnes sitting looking at the league table, knowing that they've got that comfort of 5 points regardless just now, that to have the possibility to move that to 8 points is absolutely incredible.
Tantalising.
It's incredible. It really is. It's what it is it's good for Scottish football, because for so many years we'd watch, Celtic dominate the league and run away with it, and it gets predictable. For the rest of the teams, you're just looking at Celtic and going, oh well. But it's good to have another challenge in there. It's such a big week for them. But I mean, I think part of the problem for me is they're a predictable team right now, and I think Willie mentioned it in commentary. They're trying to find the same solutions over and over again without having any way of mixing up their play. I know he changed formation, but similar patterns, and to break down a team that's sitting in and defending really, really well, deep like Dundee were, you've got to move the ball quickly. Your movement off the ball has got to be really quick as well, and you've got to have quality and bravery in that final third, and it's just breaking down for them at this point in time. Just one final point. Derek McInnes made a great point yesterday, and I think he said it before the game, but he said it after the game. He said Hearts' biggest battle at this moment in time is with themselves. They just want to keep fighting with themselves and keep trying to impress. They're not worried about any other team. Celtic have that same problem. They have to solve their own problems before they start thinking about winning games and dealing with other people. They have got in-house issues with regards their level of performance, their individuals not performing, their goals scored, defensive issues. Four teams have scored more goals than them this season in the Premiership, which is unheard of in Scottish football. One of them is sitting 10th, Motherwell, which is mad. So they have to get themselves right. They've got to get their own game in order before they start thinking of everyone else and what's going on anywhere else. They have to win their own battle against each other to make sure they can make themselves better. And that's the point Derek made about Hearts, which I thought was very, very good. And Brendan probably has the same issue. Final thoughts then from Willie Miller and Scott Allen, who were watching the match at Dens Park this afternoon. A famous Dundee victory, 2-0 for them. And just on Dundee, because obviously the back pages will be Celtic tomorrow, of course. That's just the way it is. But for Dundee, they've made their own headlines today, but they've got to, and I think Thomas said this to Clark Robertson there, Scott, they've got to back this up when they go to Falkirk next week. Yeah, they do, but what a way to get a bit of confidence in terms of that aggression that we've seen today. Obviously 2 goals, clean sheet against the reigning champions, going to Falkirk. Listen, it won't be an easy game. Falkirk have had a great result themselves, although albeit I think Motherwell in the first half were outstanding by all accounts, but ultimately Falkirk came away with the win. But if they can back this up, then it will allow Stephen Presley and this squad to move forward. Yeah, and then Willie, for Stephen Presley, he's going to have to demand that from his players, isn't he? I mean, it's going to be an easy message for him to convey on the training ground this week. That's the standard they've set there. They're not going to face 80% possession, or their opponents are going to 82, was it 83% in the end? They're not going to face that every week. But the standard's been set there today, both defensively and offensively. Yeah, this afternoon for me was a victory for old-fashioned football, Liam. You love that. Simple. No, you know, sometimes I can't understand why you ask central defenders to start the build-up of play when they're not capable of doing it, actually, and you're much better just getting the ball forward and playing to your strength. Is playing to your strengths in football a bad thing? I don't think it is. That's what Stephen Presley did today. Goalkeeper kicked it long, played it into the final third. They were then up and top. The back five pushed right up to the halfway line in the midfield. There was energy there to win the second ball. There was aggression all over the park. That's an old-fashioned word as well. It's used. Celtic, on the other hand, had all the possession in the world. They passed it for fun, but they did nothing with it. Absolutely nothing with it. And I'll tell you, it's not going to improve unless they find a way of changing that, or maybe getting players with more quality in that final third. But for me today, I really enjoyed the performance. After watching them at Pittodrie, so ineffective, so lacking in the passion, so lacking in everything that Stephen Presley's side showed this afternoon, I was totally taken aback by how they improved over that fortnight, and the work that must have been done on the training field, and it worked absolutely perfect. And I've never been here and watched Dundee fans standing and applauding
their players in so many different occasions, and I'll tell you what, they deserved it. So for me, a victory for old-fashioned football. That's a good afternoon, and that's me finished. I'm going back up the road.
See you later, Willie.
I've been on the road. I was down to Paisley yesterday, back up to Aberdeen, down to Dundee, and I'm away back home. And you know what? I might just have a glass of wine.
Do you know what? I think you should, Willie. But before you do, I'll just let you wax lyrical about Marko Lazetic's goal that won the game.
You know, it was superb, wasn't it? You know, I think Aberdeen, for me, I thought were the better team in the first half. St Mirren the better team in the second half. Aberdeen had chances, St Mirren have chances. There was a controversial goal that was chalked off, and then you're thinking, well, it's just going to dwindle out to a 0-0. And then Lazetic has shown, you know, signs of what he can do. We watched Carlson score a magnificent one against Dundee, and Lazetic, youngster, full of energy, makes that run to the byline. The turn on the byline was sublime, but then he's got to actually hit the back of the net from a really tight angle. It was an absolute, from an Aberdeen point of view, obviously disappointing for St Mirren, but I'm talking from an Aberdeen point of view. It sent the fans in raptures, and the way he celebrated it as well. The way he executed the goal was fabulous. The way he celebrated was magnificent. It was quite a win, and I'm sorry to say, Stephen, it was a great result.
Whatever, Willie.
Very
thank
good.
You.
Listen, Willie, thank you very much, and thanks to Scott as well, and to Thomas, who brought us the commentary. Dundee 2, Celtic 0. We're going to hear a little bit now from Neil Lennon, former Celtic manager, talking about managing football clubs, generally speaking as well. He was a guest on the Saturday show yesterday. So quite interesting to get his take on just taking charge of a football team and the pressures that come with that. I will say that obviously he was on the Saturday show, so some of what he says is a little bit out of date because Ange Postecoglou's been sacked since then, which we can maybe get into as well. But this was Neil Lennon chatting with Stephen Mill and Amy Irons on the Saturday show on Radio Scotland yesterday.
Well, you managed abroad though.
I did, yeah.
As you said, Romania, Cyprus.
Yeah.
How different was that? Bearing in mind that your playing and managing career had always been, well, in managing certainly in Scotland at that point.
Bucharest was very short. It was only 5 games, which was bonkers. We got sold this idea and then it didn't happen. But Cyprus was amazing. Got there in February. We won the cup, the National Cup at the end of the season, which was amazing. And then we qualified we beat Genk over 2 games to qualify for the Europa League group stage. We got Man United, and we're at Old Trafford, and in the 94th minute, that man, McTominay, scored the winner.
Yeah, I've been watching.
I'm still not speaking to him about it. So, I mean, that was a great sort of experience. The weather, the climate, the people. You know, every day I'm like walking in my shorts and flip-flops to training. You know, totally different.
Not to East End.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, don't go too soon. We're happy where you are at the moment, Neil. We're just thinking about pressure as well in the dugout. We'll come into a few examples in a second, but you said 15 years since you obviously took over from Tony Mowbray at Celtic. In terms of scrutiny, do you think it's harder than ever now to be a football man?
Oh yeah, it's just the scrutiny is the vitriol all the times. You know, you only have to see what happened to Russell Martin of late. It was really poor. All right, albeit he didn't get the results that the job demanded, but the way he was treated by some aspects of the media and certainly social media was awful. Ange is going through it at the minute as well. He's having to come up, you know, in the press conference 7 games in and defend his record, which after 7 games is ludicrous. So yeah, I mean, it's all this instant results, instant success, and that's where I'm lucky a little bit because I've got an owner who's going to be patient. But I just think that, you know, once the pylon starts, it's very difficult to stop it.
You felt that, didn't you, with Russell Martin, that no matter if he started to turn things around and get results, it was just, there was so much going against him. Did you see, you mentioned Ange Postecoglou, I think was like a 5-minute monologue and just in the press conference. Have you ever just got to that point with a journalist or in a presser where it's like all of that pressure and you've just completely lost it because it just the questions, everything is just it's too much?
Sometimes I get, you know, at times with Celtic, you know, I'd get really short and curt with them, you know, because
which is always funny to watch, by the way, when you're not the journalist asking the questions.
Yeah, or you know, it's loaded with sarcasm or you know, a bit of facetiousness because you know it's a stupid question and you sort of answer it really short and curt. I think with Ange at the minute, he's feeling that he has to defend himself, which, you know, in reality, he shouldn't have to, really. You know, he's just won the Europa League, you know, 4 or 5 months ago, and he's only in the job. But people say that it's just the way it is. It shouldn't be the way it is. It wasn't the way it was when I first started managing. And I always remember when it started, you know, clubs were really long-term planning with managers. It wasn't sort of, you know, sack him and move on. But the pressure that comes from outside, owners start to get a bit jittery. They start thinking that it's not working. They listen to other people instead of staying on the right track. So if you look at Celtic, for example, you know, in my time as a player and manager, they never sacked the managers, you know. Never.
No.
I don't think... Maybe Tony was probably the only one in my time over that 25-year period. You know, Martin, Gordon, myself, Ange, Brendan and Ange left for other clubs, and the rest of us all left off our own volition, really.
Yeah.
Because you then get to build... I'm even just thinking about the, you know, like the Martin O'Neill team that you played in. You then see that a manager can actually build a team and a core squad, which takes time. But once they get that right, once you've got your key players in those certain positions, the results will start to come.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some clubs where they have been patient with the manager and it's really worked out in the end. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of some examples, but I can't.
Like Thomas Frank or something at Brentford, he got a pretty long run at it. I know he's at Tottenham now. I mean,
but that was a process that they believed in, Steve, and they believed in what Thomas, they brought him in. And it was like, you know, Keith Andrews is going after him as a succession plan through the club, but that's a really well-run club, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Thomas was there for a very long time, and, you know, that stability. He's really good as well. Obviously good at what he does, but he's really good in the media as well. But that's probably with the reassurance that people have got his back as well.
We like to think Scottish football is an exception in some ways, I think, and the pressure at Celtic and Rangers is obviously really high, but there's other clubs across Europe where the pressure is really high as well.
But I think it's got worse though in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting you say that, because obviously when you were Celtic manager, I mean, you were attacked on the pitch, you had, you know, bullets in the post, death threats, stuff like that, but you think it's worse now?
Well, I'm talking about the actual scrutiny and criticism and analysis of the individual, whether it be Brendan at the minute or whether it be whoever's going to take over at Rangers. It's really, really claustrophobic, I think.
Well, that's the thing with Russell Martin. Obviously, he was, you know, escorted out until
it's really,
to the bus.
Really poor, that, you know, really sad to see that.
Do you think that puts managers off coming? When we've heard, you know, obviously in the last week it's been about last couple of weeks, who's going to be replacing Russell Martin. When you hear whether it's Steven Gerrard coming back or names like Graham Potter, whoever, do you think that some managers will look at it and go, I don't know if I want to...
I don't need that, yeah. No question. Look, you see it at times all over, you know, in Europe. You see demonstrations outside training grounds when fans are irate or whatever. But I just think, you know, it didn't used to be like that in Scotland, but it's become really prevalent over the last 3 or 4 years. People are angry. The world's angry, to be fair, at the minute, so it might just be a kick on from that. But yeah, it's not nice to see, I don't think. And, you know, the human beings at the end of the day, they come here with the best intentions. They come here to do the best they can be. And if they're not good enough, then fine. But there's no need for the personal attacks or the constant personal abuse.
Yeah, I guess you need to sort of separate that as well, because that's the fans.
Steve, there's one side, there's banter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but you've always said you love Neil, and it's great.
We all get the banter, right? Yeah. But then there's other stuff that's really poisonous.
Yeah.
And that needs to be eradicated. I don't know how to do it, but it's not a good look for Glasgow, I don't think, for the Glasgow football.
You work in the media quite a lot still, you know, on various TV channels, radio and stuff like that as well. I actually saw a wee clip the other day, and it was Chris Sutton speaking, and he was doing an interview, and he was like, one of the hardest things I had to do was when you were in charge at Celtic the second time round and things weren't going well, and he obviously came out and was like, I think Neil needs to go, sort of thing. He's a guy you know really well. Do you take that personally when someone like that says that about your position?
Yeah. He could have called me first to say, look, I'm putting this out there, you know, because I've known him so well. And then he's come out with some other stuff about the board at the start of the season, which, you know, I totally disagree with. You know, he does a bit of clickbait, Chris. You know, but maybe that's part of his job. But you know, he's one of my best friends in football. But there's a lot of things I don't agree with him on, and we're not going to fall out of it. But we'll debate it. Mm-hmm. But I don't agree with the way he puts it across sometimes as well.
Yeah,
there could be. He's sarcastic, so he's always been that way. He's not a likeable fella.
It looks like Kevin Muscat is going to be appointed as Rangers manager. Did you come across him in your playing days down
I didn't
south?
know. No, Kevin.
Up here?
I know he was at Millwall, and I can't remember when he played here at Rangers.
I'm sure I read
some take, but his record's very good as a coach.
Of course, he sort of followed on from Ange Postecoglou at Melbourne, and then he was in the J League, and then he was in obviously in Shanghai just now. You know, I guess like Rangers need to do something because things aren't going well just now. He knows the club, but then again, so did Russell.
Yeah.
So
and it's a different club.
Yeah.
You know, and I've known that from my own experiences as a player, and then coming back the second time as a manager. Clubs move on, personnel. It'll be a totally different vibe from what Kevin. So he has to come in with his eyes wide open. There might be a few familiar faces for him, but you know, the whole vibe around the club will be totally different for him.
Have you ever known a time where both Rangers fans and Celtic fans have been unhappy at the same time?
No. I get the little bit of the Celtic fans being unhappy with not making the Champions League, but the success the club has had, you know, domestically, and to be fair, they made the knockout stages last year. So I find it difficult to qualify how angry they can be with a board that's brought a lot of success. But I'm not going into, it's just my opinion, and people can disagree with it all they like. You know, but I've worked with these people for a long, long time, and I know how they work, and I know the quality of people that are there at the club. As for the Rangers fans, you know, they've felt like they've been shortchanged on and off the field for the last sort of 10 or 12 years. So I understand that, you know, they want to put a challenge, and they want to challenge Celtic, and they're not seeing that at the minute, and I understand that frustration.
The Saturday Show with Amy Irons and Stephen Mill
on BBC Radio Scotland.
There you go, Neil Lennon talking on the Saturday Show. Yesterday it was before Ange Postecoglou was sacked by Nottingham Forest, but obviously as well it was before Celtic lost 2-0 to Dundee on our live match earlier on Sportsound. We are with you till 5 o'clock. I've got Stephen Thompson and Stephen Craigan with me in the studio. Plenty to get into after the news, and I apologise because I'm late to the news. My fault entirely for speaking too much. That's a surprise. Been my problem for a long time. In fact, I'm still doing it. Let's get the 3 o'clock. Let's get the 3 o'clock news at 3 minutes past 3 on BBC Radio Scotland with Jess Houghton.
Across Scotland with the latest news, every kick of the ball, music and culture.
On digital radio,
BBC Sounds,
and your smart speaker.
Play BBC Radio Scotland.
Good afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. I'm Jess Houghton. The Metropolitan Police says it's actively looking into media reports that Prince Andrew tried to use his police protection order to obtain information about Virginia Giuffre before she accused him of sexual abuse. Ms. Giuffre, who took her own life earlier this year, said she was among the girls and young women exploited by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Our correspondent Rob Watson says that the latest allegations are potentially very serious for the Prince.
He's always not only denied the allegations of having sex with her 3 times, but he's always said that he couldn't really remember her. Well, the allegations being made are that he actually passed her US Social Security number and date of birth to his police protection officer, and the Met now say they are actively looking at that.
Israel says it's carried out airstrikes in southern Gaza after what it says were attacks by Hamas on its forces beyond the Yellow Line, where Israeli troops had withdrawn under the ceasefire agreement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the deal had been breached. Hamas insists it's unaware of any clashes. Thieves have escaped with several items from one of the world's most famous museums, the Louvre in Paris, after breaking into a gallery containing some of the French crown jewels. France's Interior Minister has said the stolen pieces are priceless. From Paris, Hugh Schofield reports.
At around 9:30 this morning, so when the museum had already opened, the gang of 3 or 4 men used an elevated work platform to get access to a first-floor window on the side facing the River Seine. Armed with cutters, they broke into the Apollo Gallery, which is where what remains of the French crown jewels are kept. There they opened 2 display cases and made off with several items of jewellery. The whole operation took 7 minutes, and the men left on motorbikes. 1 item of jewellery was found near the scene, apparently having been dropped.
And the radio presenter Kay Adams has been taken off her BBC Radio Scotland programme following an internal complaint about her behaviour. BBC News understands an investigation has been launched, though the corporation would not comment on the nature of allegations. A spokesman for Ms Adams said no complaints had been presented to her by the BBC. BBC Scotland says it would not comment on any individuals. To the weather now. This afternoon will be cloudy and breezy with a band of rain moving northeast across Scotland, heavy at times in southern and western areas. Highs ranging from 10 to 14 Celsius. That's BBC Radio Scotland News.